Asher felt like he'd been spotted by a rabid dog. He froze for a second, his eyes instinctively darting to the side, locking with Leo Flynn's murderous glare. Asher's mind went blank. Holy crap. I knew that idiot Serafina wouldn't have the guts to come here alone. She brought backup. The female lead and the protagonist, thick as thieves, just as the prophecy foretold. Like a fish out of water or a bird without the sky. Wait, that doesn't work. Whatever. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have received a cash reward of plus $23,333. The already sour expression on Serafina Hayes' face darkened another shade. What was all that nonsense about birds and fish? She desperately wanted to crack open Asher's skull and see which part of his brain had short-circuited, leading him to believe she and Leo were thick as thieves. Your company moves fast, Serafina said, her arms crossed, her voice dripping with ice. You heard the rumors and immediately offloaded all of your Apex Properties stock onto my family yesterday. Asher's mouth twitched. What's with the third-degree interrogation? The person who dumped that toxic asset on you was the she-devil, not me. If you got a problem, take it up with her. Besides, is there some unwritten rule that only the Hayes Corporation is allowed to make money in this town? No one else is allowed to cut their losses? What kind of high and mighty BS is that? Though internally exasperated, Asher had to maintain his well-practiced lapdog persona. Serafina, listen to me, it's not what you think. I only found out this morning. I had no idea that woman, Scarlett Jo, would turn around and sell the shares to you. I was completely out of the loop, he pleaded. If I'd known a second sooner, I would have sold them to anyone else, but you... Okay, I'm calling my own bluff. I knew, but I genuinely didn't expect the she-devil to move that fast, or that she'd target you specifically. Damn it, I was actually trying to follow the script. I didn't want her to do this. Sigh. So much for the first act, where the protagonist Leo was supposed to screw over the villain. This is so frustrating. Logically, under Leo's meticulous and sinister planning, the Vance family was supposed to take the hit. I never thought the Hayes family would get caught in the crossfire. What do you call this? Shooting yourself in the foot. Dude, can you at least aim straight? Still, the look on this dumb woman's face is priceless. Her mouth is hanging open, a perfect picture of shock. Wait, no, not again. I'm warning you. Don't you dare get moved by my heartfelt, simpering act. Asher was on the verge of tears. Serafina was in disbelief. This whole thing was orchestrated by Leo. It was a setup from the very beginning. It all clicked into place. The strange, cryptic warnings from Leo after work some days, telling her not to touch Apex Properties stock, that he had a bad feeling about it. She dismissed him. What could a lowly security guard possibly know about high finance? And every time she'd brushed him off, he'd flash that infuriating, smug smirk. He was playing 4D chess, laying traps all along. The way Serafina looked at Leo was now filled with an even deeper disgust. Leo's face clouded over. What the hell was going on? Was it possible this woman was actually falling for the useless playboy in front of him? The more he thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. Such pretty words. Leo sneered, his tone oozing sarcasm. If you really care about Ms. Hey so much, why don't you prove it? Buy back the Apex stock from her. Serafina's eyes widened slightly. The thought had never even crossed her mind. She had come here today to get answers, not to manipulate Asher's supposed feelings for her into undoing the deal. Besides, his feelings were a complete fabrication. Only a fool would fall for that. Would Asher really do it? Of course not. Asher was no fool. Are you an idiot? Before this whole Apex mess went public, I was willing to play along with your little drama. But now that the ship has sunk, you expect me to buy back the wreckage? My character is a simp, not a moron. You spent too much time overseas, haven't you? Got your head kicked by a mule? You think you can bring that half-baked corporate raider crap back here and succeed? You ever hear about the 2008 crash? By the way, your Dragon's Den isn't exactly short on cash. You're the one who's so madly in love with this woman, right? Why don't you use your PMC's funds to bail her out? Hey, wait a minute. This is a golden opportunity for the protagonist and the female lead to look heroic and put me in my place. Asher's eyes lit up. The plot might be a bastard that refused to cooperate, but he could still help manufacture the perfect scene for the protagonist's grand moment. Asher threw his hands up in a gesture of magnanimous generosity. All right. Just as a flicker of triumph crossed Leo's face, Asher added his conditions. I'll do it. I'll solve this whole Apex problem for Serafina, provided she gives me a real kiss, lips on lips, in front of everyone, and says yes to my marriage proposal. It was a challenge. A brazen, audacious challenge. Even a villainous simp had to show some backbone now and then. If you wanted the prize, you had to play hardball. The Asher in the book was a lapdog, but he wasn't a complete idiot. Billions of dollars in liquid capital wasn't pocket change. It was more than the annual GDP of some small countries. Serafina could tell he wasn't being serious. This was about provoking Leo and, as a bonus, messing with her. So, she wasn't truly offended. But one thing still infuriated her. Asher Vance was turning marriage, the most important commitment of her life, into a joke. The anger simmered inside her. Leo, on the other hand, was furious. The Dragon King was enraged. No one was allowed to touch the woman he had set his sights on. Not even a single finger. Stop dreaming, you toad. You're punching way above your weight. Leo roared. Let me make this crystal clear, Asher. Ms. Hayes will never agree to your outrageous demands. That's right, she won't. You think I actually want her to? If I brought this idiot into my family, any kids we had would probably be morons. I wouldn't marry her if she begged me. But you getting angry is perfect. Just what I wanted. Focus that rage. Come on, baby. Start plotting your next move against me. The Vance family welcomes you. Our door is always open for you to come and slap me in the face. A strange sense of satisfaction washed over Asher. All his hard work, maintaining the sim persona, was finally paying off. The protagonist was angry. And when the protagonist gets angry, does the villain ever have it easy? This meant the next face-slapping scene was right around the corner, which meant he was one step closer to going home. I accept your proposal. Serafina's voice, sharp and biting, sliced through the air. The entire room fell silent. Even Asher was stunned, speechless. His brain short-circuited. What the hell is happening now? Those words, practically a confession, made Asher's heart leap into his throat. His soul just about left his body. Accept my ass. Even if you accept, I don't. Serafina, I take back everything I said. You're not just dumb. You're off your rocker. If you want to wreck your life, fine, but don't pull me down with you. Look at the awesome, badass, take-charge Dragon King Leo standing right here. Isn't he exactly the kind of guy a trust fund baby like you is supposed to be drooling over? Being targeted by an idiot was a terrible fate. Leo, meanwhile, was already beet red with fury. The sound of his knuckles cracking echoed in the tense silence. In that moment, he genuinely wanted to murder Asher on the spot. Asher, what is the meaning of this? He seethed. You should be asking Serafina what she means. I'm pretty sure I didn't force her to say yes. Fighting back a wave of nausea brought on by Serafina's unpredictability, Asher forced a laugh. What do you think it means? Serafina accepted my proposal. You heard her. Ugh. Asher swallowed the bile rising in his throat. He could be a doormat for Serafina, but for the protagonist? Not a chance. He didn't need to show Leo an ounce of respect. Trolling him was the only way to go. Veins bulged on Leo's forehead. Ms. Hayes, this isn't real, right? For the first time, the proud, indomitable Leo Flynn felt a sliver of fear. He looked at Serafina, his voice trembling with uncertainty. Serafina opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She had to admit it. She'd spoken out of pure anger. Asher had been too much, calling her an idiot over and over in his head. It was a desperate, subconscious act of retaliation. Serafina bit her lip. Things had gone too far, and she had no idea how to walk it back. Asher gasped, a spark of understanding igniting in his eyes. He saw it all clearly now. You brilliant, cold-hearted woman. On one hand, you agree to my proposal. On the other, you're stoking the protagonist's animosity towards me. That was your real plan all along, wasn't it? Damn, the female lead lives up to her reputation. Devious and cruel. What's that old saying? The female of the species is more deadly than the male. You're a prime example, Serafina. Phew, the plot is finally back on track. Holy crap, for a second there, I thought you'd actually fallen for me. I was about to book a flight out of New York tonight. Thank God. Ha ha ha. Serafina's brow furrowed into a sharp line. I meant what I said, she almost shouted. The smile vanished from Asher's face. Leo, who had been clinging to a shred of hope, froze. If Serafina's first declaration had been ambiguous, this one was a nail in the coffin. Leo couldn't understand it. Was it just about the money? Was Serafina really willing to trade her body for a few $1 billion? The Dragon's Den could easily come up with that kind of cash, and more. But a woman who would sell herself for money, how was she any different from a high-class escort? He was on the verge of losing control, of delivering a single, fatal punch to Asher. But after spending some time around her, Leo knew Serafina wasn't that kind of woman. You almost had me, woman. The greatest benefit of the protagonist's aura was that it allowed him to think clearly even when enraged, preventing him from doing something stupid like a common villain. Leo smirked internally. He didn't believe her for a second, and neither he wagered, did Asher. Click, clack, click, clack. The rhythmic sound of high heels echoed on the marble floor. A magnetic, playful female voice cut through the tension. Serafina Hayes, has things gotten so bad that you have to come to another woman's company to steal her man for the good of your family? The newcomer was none other than Scarlett Jo. She was dressed to kill. A sharp black blazer over a crisp white silk blouse, a form-fitting pencil skirt, and sheer black stockings that accentuated her long legs. The impeccably tailored outfit clung to her curves, highlighting a figure that was nothing short of explosive. The top two buttons of her blouse seemed to be fighting a heroic battle, barely containing the porcelain skin beneath. The sight of her stunned Leo Flynn. A flicker of undisguised admiration crossed his face. So the rumors are true, he thought. New York really does produce the most beautiful women. Holy crap, the boss lady is here. Is this the wife catching the mistress? What are you talking about? Everyone knows our boss is into Ms. Hayes. Don't you know anything? Man, if the boss lady was my fiancée, I'd have given in ages ago. Keep dreaming. She's the kind of woman you'll never have in your life. Serafina's brow furrowed, her eyes clashing with the she-devils. If you added special effects, sparks would be flying between them. Scarlett had royally screwed her over yesterday. Even if Leo was the mastermind and Scarlett was just an accessory, Serafina felt a surge of directionless rage. Oh, thank God. My savior has arrived. She-devil, hurry up and do what you do best. Piss this idiot woman off and make her leave. Don't you dare let me down. Asher breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, a reprieve from the torture of his simp persona. Serafina glanced down at her own elegant, cream-colored pantsuit. She was impeccably dressed and had put on light makeup before coming here. On paper, she was Scarlett's equal. Her cheeks flushed slightly. What do you mean, steal your man? Asher likes me, doesn't he? In that moment, everything became clear. She could accept failure in business. But now, she was determined to provoke Asher. Pissing off Scarlett was just a bonus. And, most importantly, it was a chance to shake off the real predator in the room, Leo Flynn. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Scarlett's almond-shaped eyes widened slightly. Had Serafina had a personality transplant? In the past, Serafina couldn't stand to be in the same room as Asher for more than 10 minutes without feeling physically ill. Leo stood frozen, as if struck by lightning. Is she telling the truth, or is this just an act? For a moment, he felt like he didn't understand Serafina at all. Asher was just as baffled. For the love of God, please just shut up. How are words like that even coming out of your mouth? Scarlett's expression turned scornful. She crossed her arms, her full, sensual lips parting. So, you're just going to leverage Asher's crush on you to make the Vance family bail you out of your debt crisis? Every word was a dagger. Serafina was puzzled. Scarlett had never cared about Asher before. And yesterday, after learning about the problems with Apex, she had personally and immediately orchestrated the transfer of stock to the Hayes Corporation. If Scarlett hadn't been there, if it had just been Mark Lee and some other Vance Corp executives, Serafina would have been suspicious and wouldn't have signed the contract so quickly. What if I am? What if I'm not? Just like Scarlett, Serafina felt something was off about her rival. She decided to test the waters. She turned to face Asher. Asher, you like me, don't you? Asher was dumbfounded. What the hell is this? The destined heroine and the destined villainess are at each other's throats, which is perfectly normal. But why are you dragging me into your catfight? Despite his inner turmoil, Asher plastered on his professional simp smile. Like you? Of course I like you. Serafina, my love for you is an ocean, endless and deep. You're the light, the spark, my one and only superstar. Gag good. Then let's date. Before Asher could finish retching, Serafina dropped the bomb. The entire room fell into a dead silence. Huh. Asher was sure his ears were malfunctioning. He swallowed hard, his body trembling, not from excitement, but from sheer panic. What? What did you say? Facing Asher's question, Serafina pursed her lips and forced a smile. She enunciated each word with chilling clarity. I said, let's date. As she spoke, her eyes were locked on Scarlett's face, as if trying to decipher some hidden clue. In that instant, all the light and hope drained from Asher's world. Everything went black. Leo's fists clenched, a murderous glint in his eyes. He was barely restraining the urge to kill Asher right then and there. But Asher was too busy having an existential crisis to notice. A look of pure shock crossed Scarlett's exquisite features as she stared at Serafina. Has she gone insane? Asher had said in his thoughts that the Serafina from the book would never agree to his pursuit. The two women's gazes met again. Scarlett caught it, a flicker of surprise in Serafina's eyes. A bold thought sparked in her mind. She can hear Asher's thoughts, too. Boom. Once the idea took root, it was impossible to shake. It made perfect sense. It made perfect sense. They were living in a novel. From the moment they were born, their lives had been predetermined. They would either become one of Leo Flynn's women or die as his enemy. The evidence was irrefutable. First, hearing Asher's thoughts, and second, the fact that everything he thought came true. Scarlett let out a self-deprecating smile. So, she wasn't the only special one. If Seraphina could also hear his thoughts, then all her bizarre behavior suddenly made perfect sense. There was no reason to get angry with an actress putting on show, but she needed to be sure. Seraphina, for her part, had a growing suspicion of her own. The two women stood there, each lost in her own calculations. Asher's face was a mask of despair. Agreeing was out of the question. Seraphina might be willing, but he sure as hell wasn't. But refusing was even more out of character. Why had he spent all this time playing the simp? Wasn't the goal to win the goddess's heart? Now that she'd finally nodded yes, if he backed out, everything he'd done would be for nothing. Not to mention the dozens of pairs of eyes watching him. Oh, and one pair that was shooting flames of pure murderous intent. Courtesy of the protagonist, Leo Flynn. Asher was terrified. But wait a second. Holy crap. I get it now. This dumb woman is trying to motivate Leo. She's pushing him to escalate his plans to destroy my family. I remember now. In the beginning, Leo was just annoyed with me, the rich playboy simp. He didn't actually want to kill me. It was only later, to win Seraphina's heart and get her father's approval, that he decided to take me out. What Seraphina is doing right now is just fanning the flames of his ambition. Damn, this woman is ruthless. To get in the sack with the protagonist sooner, she'll do anything. Brilliant and completely insane. Seraphina stared, dumbfounded. Motivate Leo? Get in the sack with him? She had never, ever thought about any of those things. A knowing smile spread across Asher's face. Huh, Seraphina, you finally agreed. To show your sincerity, let's start with a kiss. Scarlett couldn't hold it in any longer. She let out an unladylike snore of laughter. It was a sound that could topple kingdoms. Leo, in contrast, looked like he was about to spontaneously combust. Asher's eye twitched. He turned to Scarlett, genuinely confused. She dev, ahem. Scarlett, is there something funny about me accepting Seraphina's offer? Scarlett was laughing so hard, she had to bend over, clutching her stomach. No. Nothing. Seraphina's face was a thundercloud. She shot a death glare at Asher, then another at Scarlett. Her eyes met the she-devils again. Her eyes locked in a silent, loaded stare. If before they were probing each other's defenses, now they both knew with absolute certainty. The other could hear Asher's thoughts too. Scarlett Joe, the Hayes family will not forget what happened today. Seraphina bit out. Then, blushing furiously, she turned and stormed out. It was hard to tell if it was from shame or rage, but the latter was the safer bet. Leo let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Thank God, his woman, Seraphina, hadn't actually given in to Asher. As a seasoned veteran in the art of romance, he could tell from her expression that it had all been an act, most likely to spite Scarlett Joe. Damn it, she almost fooled me, Leo muttered, a vicious glint in his eye. From this moment on, Asher Vance was officially a thorn in his side. His plans to crush the Vance family would have to be moved up. Leo retracted his gaze, shot one last glare at Asher, and then a quick, appraising look at Scarlett, expertly concealing the greed in his eyes. He turned and followed Seraphina. Asher couldn't help but find the pair utterly baffling. Weren't you here to stir up trouble? Why not see it through? Seraphina, don't go. Asher yelled dramatically, his voice filled with passion and obsession. You already said yes. What about the Apex Properties mess? Do you still want my help? If you do, come back and we can share a nice French kiss. Nothing else counts. His feet, however, remained firmly planted. Seraphina, who hadn't even made it out the front doors of Vance Corporation, heard his shameless words. She trembled with rage, unable to bear the atmosphere a second longer. She quickened her pace, desperate to escape. Leo was incandescent. When the Dragon King raged, a million would fall. You're dead, he mouthed, turning back to Asher. The words were silent, but the message was deafening. Asher sucked in a breath. The protagonist was mad? Excellent. Unlike the humiliated and furious pair, Asher was ecstatic. Wow, French kiss. Mr. Vance, can we add that to the annual company benefit package? I want a kiss too. Heh, you wish, sweetie. Mr. Vance belongs to Ms. Joe. Stop dreaming. What's wrong with dreaming? It might come true. The female employees began to whisper boldly among themselves. They knew Asher's character. He was the boss, but he never put on airs with his staff, unlike some of the petty middle managers who treated their little bit of power like a royal decree. Asher watched the duo leave, feeling satisfied. He was about to head back to his office to slack off when he noticed Scarlett was still there. A smile still played on her lips, revealing two charming dimples. She had the natural aura of a queen, an intellectual beauty with an innate air of authority. Asher's eyelid twitched. Sometimes he wondered if Scarlett was crazy. Why else would she burst out laughing and keep smiling until... Now, wait, she wasn't smiling anymore. In fact, she was glaring at him. Asher scratched his head. What's up with the she-devil? Is it that time of the month again? Scarlett shot him another withering look. Are you free for lunch? For you, I'm free. For lunch, I'm not. Asher shook his head frantically. No, I'm swamped with work. A faint blush crept up Scarlett's cheeks. She gently bit her lower lip. You're not going to help with our father's situation? As if afraid he wouldn't understand, she added, Dar. Julian Joe is available these next few days. Ask Dad when he's free, and I'll arrange the meeting. Asher understood, but the way she kept saying our father and Dad was unsettlingly familiar. You're not my wife yet. She-devil, can we please just stick to the script? You're supposed to get to know me, then fall for me. There's a process. Asher was panicking. If he didn't do something, he felt like Scarlett was going to completely dominate him. He's my dad, not your dad. Get it straight. A knowing smile touched Scarlett's lips. Is there a difference? Yes. Asher was about to cry. Scarlett looked him straight in the eye, the tips of her ears turning pink. Do you believe in love at first sight? Asher stared at her, as if she were an idiot. I believe in ghosts more than I believe in that. Love at first sight? That's something you tell a 3-year-old. You actually buy that nonsense? This was Asher's genuine opinion. So-called love at first sight was just seeing someone attractive and feeling a sudden spark. It came quickly, and it went just as fast. To put it bluntly, it was lust at first sight. Then why did you fall for Serafina the moment you saw her? Why were you willing to debase yourself and do so much for her? Scarlett's beautiful face drew closer. They could feel the warmth of each other's breath. Asher's heart hammered against his ribs. Before he could answer, Scarlett continued, her voice a low murmur. I feel the same way you do. One look and it was for life. Except my feeling is real. There's nothing fake about it. The implication was clear. Your love for Serafina is an act. But my love for you is real. A chill ran down Asher's spine. It wasn't that he didn't want to be with Scarlett. It was just that in the original story, Scarlett was forced to marry into the Vance family. Under pressure from his parents, Asher accepted her, but their marriage was in name only. Later, resentful of her family's arrangement, Scarlett sabotaged the Van Cess from within, becoming a tool for Leo Flynn. Then, at an important banquet, Leo had instigated one of Scarlett's former suitors to drug her drink. The suitor was just a pawn, killed by Leo's men afterward. Leo's true goal was to claim the first blood of one of New York's top beauties. He was only foiled by other circumstances, and the drugging was exposed. Seeing Asher at the scene, Leo framed him for the crime. Leo never cared if the women he conquered were virgins. Unless he was particularly infatuated, they were all just pawns. What he hadn't expected was that beneath Scarlett's fiery exterior was a deeply traditional woman. From that moment on, regardless of whether Asher loved her, she considered him her husband. After Asher's eventual death, she logically became the new villainous boss. That's different, Asher finally managed to say. He had rejected the she-devil time and again. She was a woman with a lot of pride. Surely, she would finally back off now. He was dead wrong. Scarlett pressed closer, her warm breath a fragrant whisper against his skin. In a voice only he could hear, she purred, Oh, how is it different? Aren't all hearts made of flesh and blood? Yours can beat, and so can mine. Why don't you touch it, and we can compare? A faint blush bloomed on Scarlett's cheeks as she watched the flustered look on her little wolf's face. She was starting to get addicted to this feeling. Asher's gaze instinctively dropped to the straining fabric of her blouse. He swallowed hard. All right. He surrendered. He conceded. Hers were bigger. Much bigger. There's no comparison, Asher declared, taking a step back to create some distance. My love for Serafina transcends all. He was terrible at close-quarters combat. Scarlett paused, and the smile on her face deepened. Whatever you say, Asher struggled to maintain his composure. I have things to do. I'm leaving. He turned and practically fled. 3 days apart, and the she-devil's power level had increased exponentially. He was outmatched. Scarlett's smile was serene. Don't forget our lunch date. Dr. Joe isn't always available. A jolt went through Asher, and he nearly stumbled. Damn it, there was no way out of this one. She was using his father as leverage. She-devil, you live up to your name. Sigh. Fine. It's just lunch, Asher thought. He could handle one meal. Even though he knew the formula for the herbal medicine, he couldn't just produce it out of thin air without raising suspicion. He'd just have to treat it as his last meal with the dog. Watching Asher beat his hasty retreat, Scarlett turned and walked toward her private office, her expression instantly turning cold. So, Seraphina Hayes can also hear my darling's thoughts, she murmured, licking her crimson lips. This just got interesting. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. My darling wants to maintain the status quo, and I can use his thoughts to learn valuable information about the future. Should I consider a temporary alliance with that woman? Meanwhile, after leaving the Vance Corporation building, Leo Flynn didn't follow Seraphina back to Hayes Corp. Instead, he made a call. A moment later, a sultry female voice answered. Yes. An image of a voluptuous figure flashed in Leo's mind. He suppressed a sudden surge of heat. Seraph, are you in New York? I am, the woman with the codename Seraph replied. She was a mixed-race operative in his Dragon's Den, ranked 10th in overall capability. Her specialty wasn't combat, but infiltration. Good. I want you to get a job at Vance Corporation. A key position as high up as you can manage. And be discreet. Don't leave any trails. Understood, Dragon King, Seraph replied. That familiar heat coiled in Leo's gut again. This city was teeming with beautiful women. He'd already encountered 2 of the absolute highest caliber. Since returning to the States, he'd been so focused on investigating his uncle's murder and getting closer to Seraphina that he hadn't indulged in months. That would have been unthinkable back overseas. He adopted a tone of feigned concern. Seraph, this is your first time in New York, right? I know you're half American, but you don't know the city. It's not like being abroad. I can show you around, help you get settled. Seraph's brow furrowed slightly, though her voice remained alluring. Thank you for the offer, Dragon King, but I can handle it. I won't trouble you. It wasn't an affectation. Her voice was naturally seductive. In the language of cultivators, she was born with seduction bones. Even as the leader of the Dragon's Den, Leo had no direct authority over his top 10 operatives. They were the core of his organization, his most valuable assets. He had to use them, but he also had to guard against them turning on him. The truth was the Dragon's Den was just a collection of powerful individuals bound by mutual interest. It was no surprise that people with real talent wouldn't be content as mere subordinates forever. Beep, beep, beep. The line went dead. Leo stared at his phone, a flicker of anger in his eyes. Bitch, I offer you an inch, and you refuse to take it. Just wait. Once I'm done with my business here, I'll deal with all of you. He narrowed his eyes. Sarah's reason for rejecting him was, frankly, absurd. A woman with a voice that could drive men insane apparently had no interest in men at all. That fact only made Leo more excited. Any woman Sarah found attractive would have to be a stunner. He was sure she'd find a new lover in New York soon enough. Then, with a little manipulation, he could have them both. But that was for later. Right now, he was feeling pin-up. A side effect of his enhancement regimen was that his libido was several times stronger than a normal man's, a convenient plot device to justify a protagonist's promiscuity. The heat surged again. He glanced at his own hand in disgust. Just one city. How could New York reduce the Dragon King to this? Supermodels like Seraphina and Scarlett are rare, he reasoned, but this city is full of beautiful women. I'll try my luck at a bar tonight. Leo was supremely confident in his looks, and he knew that women here were materialistic, that it was an era of superficiality. With his face and his funds, picking up a few knockout women should be child's play. Back at Hayes Corporation, Seraphina had just returned to her office. Before she could even settle into her chair, her assistant rushed in. Ms. Hayes, you have a call. Don't you know how to knock? Seraphina snapped, her mood foul. The assistant froze. The door had been open, and the call seemed important, so she had just walked in. Seraphina, ever the professional, took a breath and reined in her frustration. Who is it? It's the Zhou family, the assistant said, relieved. Scarlett Zhou is on the line. Seraphina's brow furrowed in thought. She gestured with a slender finger toward her mahogany desk. Put it here. Of course. The assistant respectfully placed the phone on the desk and quickly excused herself. Seraphina shifted her crossed legs into a more alluring pose, tapping a finger on the tabletop. After a moment's hesitation, she picked up the phone and dialed the most recent number in the call history. Let's hear it. If you called just to gloat, I'm hanging up, Seraphina said, her voice like ice. I'm not that petty, Scarlett replied. You're not as pure as you look, are you? This is pointless. I'm hanging up. You can hear Asher's thoughts, can't you? Seraphina's body went rigid. A realization dawned on her. So you can hear them too, she shot back. Scarlett didn't bother denying it. That's right. Seraphina's face darkened. So you used what you heard to set me up, to screw over my family. Very clever. Yesterday's events, Scarlett's bizarre behavior, it all made sense now. As the thought crossed their minds, both women paused. They couldn't tell anyone else about Asher's thoughts, yet they could discuss it freely with each other. Perhaps there was some common thread that connected them. Scarlett took a delicate sip of black tea. You should be blaming your company's security guard for that mess. How can you pin it on us? A sudden, theatrical gasp. Oh, my apologies. I shouldn't speak ill of your Prince Charming. Shut up. The mere mention of Leo made Seraphina tremble with rage, especially when she pictured his crooked, smirking smile. She wanted to smash the phone. If you say one more pointless thing, I'm hanging up. Her tone was glacial. Scarlett dropped the playful act. Teasing was fun, but she knew not to push it too far. Since we can both hear his thoughts, we should work together. Cooperate with his act. You should be grateful, shouldn't you? His love for you is fake. You don't want someone pestering you day in and day out. Seraphina's eyebrows rose. A strange, hollow feeling bloomed in her chest. She had no shortage of suitors, but in all honesty, only Asher had ever been willing to risk his own company's interests for her, even if it was all a lie, knowing the truth. Hurt. It was the classic case of not knowing what you had until it was gone. You have a point, Seraphina conceded, but why should I agree to help you? Miss Jo, surely your memory isn't that short. Have you already forgotten about Apex Properties? The wound was still fresh. Scarlett's eyes narrowed languidly. Of course I remember, but let me be clear. The main reason this happened was because Leo Flynn wanted to win your affection by setting a trap for the Vance family. It just so happened he shot himself in the foot. You, Seraphina was flushed with humiliation. Agree to cooperate or don't. It makes no difference to me and my little man, Scarlett said coolly. Honestly, I think you and that security guard are a perfect match. Beep. As Scarlett hung up, she could hear Seraphina's furious sputtering on the other end. She smiled, her almond eyes gazing out the floor-to-ceiling window. What a beautiful day. My mood is improving already. And my first date with my little wolf is this afternoon. Where should we go for lunch? Something grand, or something romantic. She crossed her long legs, an air of indescribable elegance radiating from her. Crash! Seraphina hurled her phone against the floor. Bastards! Do they really think the Hayes family is a pushover? An inexplicable frustration washed over her. She and Scarlett were already rivals. This latest incident had only deepened the chasm between them. Her rage was focused on Leo, but her anger towards Scarlett and Asher was a different, more complex emotion. Seeing them happy just infuriated her. Seraphina, I heard you went to Vance Corporation. Hey, who upset you? Harrison Hayes walked in to see the shattered phone on the floor. Dad, what are you doing here? Seraphina asked, standing up. Harrison repeated his question. You went to Vance Corp today? Did you see Asher? She nodded, her face burning with shame. I did. A wide, wrinkled smile spread across Harrison's face. Excellent. That young man is so smitten with you. I'm sure he'll buy back some of that Apex stock from us. Daughter, just listen to your father for a few days. Ask him out more. Have dinner. Go to the movies. Seraphina gave a bitter laugh, cutting him off with a hastily invented excuse. He's ignoring me. The smile on Harrison's face froze. He can't be. Doesn't he adore you? He's been chasing you for so long. It was all fake. She screamed internally. And even if it was real, your daughter would never stoop so low as to beg him. A sea of bitterness welled up inside her. She finally managed to usher her father out of the office. As he left, Harrison grumbled about Asher under his breath, saying something about how a man who couldn't help with such a small problem didn't deserve his daughter's affection anyway. Once he was gone, Seraphina sank wearily into her chair. Every time she thought of Asher's fake courtship, a fresh wave of anger washed over her. If I can't be happy, then neither can you. You want to make me angry? Fine. I'll make you angry too. Jean Georges, a Michelin-starred restaurant on the waterfront, was a jewel of New York's dining scene. Perched in a location where every square foot was worth a fortune, it was constantly bustling with tourists and locals alike. The restaurant's design was a sophisticated fusion of European elegance and classic American elements, creating an atmosphere of pure, aspirational luxury. Vroom! The deep, captivating roar of a high-performance engine, like a cheetah in full sprint, grew louder as a stunning crimson sports car pulled up to the curb. Its streamlined body, aggressive front fascia, and racing-style spoiler were a symphony of design, stimulating the senses of every onlooker. The crowd was mesmerized. A young man, a true car enthusiast, recognized the model, his face a mask of shock. Holy crap, that's a real deal Ferrari LaFerrari. The people around him, less knowledgeable about cars, were confused. A LaFerrari? Isn't that just another model from Ferrari? One asked. The enthusiast's eyes shone like twin suns. It's a Ferrari, yes, but it's in a league of its own. See all those other luxury cars in the valet lot? This one car is worth more than all of them combined. A girl with wide eyes gasped. You're exaggerating. No, the young man said, shaking his head. If anything, I'm underselling it. This car isn't just a symbol of extreme wealth. It's a statement of status. It costs over $2 million, and that's if you can even get on the list to buy one. You need a special purchase qualification from Ferrari. A collective gasp went through the crowd. Forget the qualification. The price alone was enough to intimidate 99.9% of the people present. The LaFerrari came to a stop. Its sleek scissor doors swung upward, a display of pure automotive theater. Hearing of the arrival, the restaurant's striking French manager immediately led a small contingent of staff out to greet the guests with expressions of utmost reverence. When the crowd saw who emerged from the car, a collective understanding dawned on them. Of course, couldn't we have just grabbed a bite anywhere? God, women are so much trouble, Asher muttered, scratching his head. He wasn't picky about food. As long as it wasn't inedible, he was fine. Scarlett smiled sweetly. Little Wahem, you really don't understand women, do you? This is called romance. Hundreds of gazes were fixed on them. Whoa, are Asher Vance and Scarlett Jo back together? He's taking her out to lunch alone? What will Serafina Hayes think? What are you talking about? They're a perfect match, a power couple. Who are you to judge? I agree, Mr. Vance and Ms. Jo look so much better together. Damn, does Mr. Vance need a mistress? I'd do it for free. Some people even pulled out their phones to take pictures. Asher's mouth twitched. Look all you want, but are you seriously trying to get clicks off of this? You with the phone, that's going too far. Put it away. I still have to maintain my simp persona for that idiot Serafina. Asher roared internally. But then he figured, even if Serafina saw the photos, she wouldn't care. So why should he? The whole act was for her benefit, not for these random onlookers. With that thought, he felt a little better. The blonde French manager smiled, bowing slightly. Ms. Jo, Mr. Vance, thank you so much for choosing Jean-Georges. We will provide you with the finest service. Please follow me. Asher handed the key fob to a valet and, with Scarlett on his arm, followed the manager inside. The young valet stared at the key in his hand as if it were a hot potato, frozen in place, unsure of what to do with such a precious object. Inside, Asher looked around. He'd never been here before, but the decor was impressive, exuding an intensely romantic vibe. His one regret from his past life was that he'd never taken Scarlett to a decent restaurant for a proper meal. Now, through a strange twist of fate, the plot was veering off course. It was askew, but not completely derailed. At least, that's what he told himself. Perhaps, deep down, he was trying to make it up to her. After symbolically pushing away her intimately linked arm a couple of times, he put on a look of weary resignation and let her cling to him. Let the minor plot points deviate, he thought. As long as the major face-slapping scenes later on stay on track, it's fine. He sent a silent prayer of encouragement to the underperforming protagonist. The manager led them to the restaurant's 6th floor. She stopped at a prime table by the window, turned, and bowed again. Ms. Jo, Mr. Vance, this is the best table in our restaurant. We cleared it especially for you as soon as we heard you would be dining with us. Normally, getting a table at Jean-Georges required a reservation weeks in advance. Even well-connected, high-status individuals couldn't just walk in and claim the best seat. But for Scarlett Jo and Asher Vance, it was a different story. All it took was a single phone call. Asher glanced around. The table was surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a breathtaking panoramic view of the New York skyline, including the iconic silhouette of the Empire State Building. The city's mesmerizing landscape was laid out before them. The table was already adorned with a lavish arrangement of red roses, every detail meticulously crafted for maximum romantic effect. It was a feast for all the senses. This was the life a wealthy villain was supposed to enjoy, not groveling as a simp just to go home. Asher's resolve wavered for a moment before he shook himself back to reality. Damn it, my determination was almost shaken. It's all this she-devil's fault. Her methods are too potent. But I have to admit, the planning, the choice of restaurant. She was really thoughtful. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have acquired French language proficiency. Asher was baffled. What was the point of learning a foreign language out of the blue? Hey, system. Can you give me something practical? like a miracle drug that can fix whatever is wrong with Serafina's brain. In an instant, thousands of French words, their meanings and grammatical structures flooded his mind, becoming as natural as his native tongue. His entire demeanor shifted, gaining a new layer of sophistication. Ms. Joe, Mr. Vance, here are the menus, the blonde manager, Amelie, said, having lingered by the table. Normally, she would delegate such a task, but she had stayed personally to attend to them. Merci, belle madame, Asher said, accepting the menu, the words flowing out of him effortlessly. He was as surprised as anyone. Amelie's eyes lit up instantly. A look of pure delight spread across her face. To meet someone who spoke your native language in a foreign country was an exhilarating experience, especially when they spoke it so perfectly. Her impressive chest heaved with excitement as she switched to fluent French. Monsieur Vance, I didn't know you spoke French. Asher blinked. It was incredible. He understood every word she was saying. Getting freebies from the system was awesome. Beside him, Scarlett looked on in surprise. She didn't understand a word of French. English she could manage, but other languages were awash. For people of their stature, the time spent learning a new language was better invested in business. You could hire a dozen translators with the money you'd make in that time. But still, to be able to speak and understand it yourself was undeniably cool. Feeling the she-devil's astonished gaze on him, Asher felt a surge of smug satisfaction. He smiled and continued in French, just a little. They say American men are so understated. Amelie gushed, her eyes sparkling. Not like the men back home, who boast about every little skill they have. You, Monsieur Vance, are far too modest. Having lived in the States for nearly a decade, Amelie had come to appreciate the cultural nuances. She found the local reserve far more appealing than the bravado she was used to. As she spoke, she leaned forward, perhaps intentionally, offering Asher an unobstructed view of her generous décolletage. Wow, it was even more impressive than Scarlett's. A woman like that must have had a tough time growing up. Out of a sense of international camaraderie, Asher smiled. I wouldn't say that. It's just a difference in culture. There is no good or bad, only people's perception of it. Amelie's eyes shone even brighter. French women were notoriously forward, and since Scarlett couldn't understand them, she grew bolder. Asher was, without a doubt, the most handsome American man she had ever seen. The French believed in romance above all else. Even if Asher were penniless, she would happily be his sugar mama. Monsieur Vance, she said, her tone conspiratorial. Our restaurant has a special dish, authentic French oysters. It can only be enjoyed when your companion is not present. When Scarlett wasn't looking, she shot Asher a sultry wink. Asher sucked in a sharp breath. Holy crap, you've got some nerve, trying to poach me right in front of the she-devil. I seriously doubt my charm is powerful enough to make women fall for me at first sight. This woman is up to something. Definitely. Maybe I should book a room tonight and investigate. I'm just curious about authentic French cuisine, I swear. No ulterior motives whatsoever. He swallowed hard. His thoughts, of course, were broadcast directly into Scarlett's ears. Just as Asher was about to reply to the expectant Amelie, Scarlett spoke, her voice deceptively sweet. Is this how your restaurant treats its guests? The sudden, cold interjection made Asher, his little brother, and Amelie all jump. Amelie's gaze met the she-devil's, and she felt as if she'd been seen through completely. A cold sweat broke out on her back. She quickly switched back to English, stammering an apology. My deepest apologies, Ms. Joe. I was just so excited to meet a guest who speaks my native language. I got carried away. Scarlett propped her chin on one hand, tapping the table with the fingers of the other. I've decided what I want. You can have the kitchen prepare it. She pushed the menu she had marked toward the edge of the table. Amelie snatched up the menu, nodding repeatedly. She fled as if escaping a fire, not daring to look at Asher again, not even daring to ask for his menu. Asher looked from the she-devil, who was now smirking triumphantly, to the retreating manager. Hey, I haven't ordered yet, he called out, bewildered. But Amelie was long gone. This was New York, the turf of the Vance and Joe families. Forget the Vances. The Joes alone could crush her like an ant. And the worst way to kill someone wasn't to actually kill them, but to make them wish they were dead. Damn it, she-devil, what is your problem? You just cost me a multi-billion-dollar project. This is so ridiculous. I thought you didn't understand French. I thought you didn't know French, Asher asked, annoyed. The two were now sitting face to face. Scarlett's eyes danced with amusement as she nodded. I don't. Then how did you know about the oysters? I mean, wasn't it rude to scare her off like that? She's in a foreign country, just looking for someone to talk to in her own language. What's so wrong with that? You wouldn't even give her that. Don't you feel bad? Asher didn't know if the she-devil's conscience was hurting, but his heart certainly was. Sigh. Maybe I'll swing back here after I drop her off. Thud. A hand slapped the table. The sound wasn't loud, but it was startling. Asher flinched. Scarlett's expression had turned grim. I may not understand French, but I'm not blind. The way that manager was looking at you is not normal. And the way you look at me is? Asher's bravado suddenly deflated. Scarlett threw up her hands and rolled her eyes, giving him a look. Heh. Asher's mouth twitched. Huh? What do you mean, huh? My ass. I lost out on a major project. A huge deal. Do you have any idea how much that hurts? Actually, my French isn't as good as you think. I just wanted some practice. Is that so wrong? Ark, you're killing me, she-devil. What you won't give me, others will. Wait, what was that? Ding. Congratulations, host. You have received a cash reward of plus $66, $666. A familiar, ticklish sensation brushed against Asher's leg. His mind went blank as if struck by lightning. You've got to be kidding me. His neck felt stiff as he slowly lowered his gaze. A ridiculously cute foot, clad in black silk, was sliding up his shin. The red, open-heeled stiletto it had been wearing was nowhere to be seen. Scarlett's lips, painted a vibrant rose red, parted slightly, revealing perfect white teeth. Are you feeling lonely? What's so great about that French woman anyway? She has to douse herself in perfume. I, on the other hand, gulp. Asher swallowed, his mind a complete blank. He was completely under her spell, following her lead. What's different about you? He asked, his voice a croak. Scarlett's smile was devastatingly beautiful. She gave a sultry little twist of her hips, not answering his question directly. Instead, she tossed it back to him, her voice a low, teasing purr. Guess. Guess? You guess if I can guess what you want me to guess. Guess my ass. I haven't had a chance to compare. So how would I know which one is better? Asher thought, his mind racing. The foot was tickling him. His heart skipped a beat. Scarlett, are you insane? He hissed. It's not fair for you to start a fire and then not put it out. Scarlett's almond eyes twinkled, her nose crinkling playfully. Does this not seem like me? She purred. Like you? Not all. Asher was in a state of self-doubt, so much so that he forgot to let go of her ankle. The warmth from her foot seeped into his hand. Scarlett's cheeks flushed. Sometimes, she wondered if her legs were really that captivating. A moment later, 2 waitresses arrived with their food. Asher snapped back to reality and instinctively released her ankle. Hiss! Asher winced. The second his hand moved, her foot shot forward again, more boldly this time. Whoa! Asher's reflexes were sharp. He stealthily captured her foot again, this time with both hands, and mouthed silently to Scarlett. Are you crazy? There are people here. The situation was strangely thrilling. His character persona demanded that he angrily fling her foot away and declare his undying opposition to such sinful behavior. But he couldn't. He quickly fabricated an excuse in his mind. If the waitresses saw them, the story would definitely get back to Serafina. His simp character wouldn't want Serafina to misunderstand. Therefore, he was forced to comply with the she-devil. Yes, that was it. Scarlett, having anticipated his inner monologue, felt the same exhilarating rush. A rosy hue crept up her neck. She knew what this feeling meant, and she wasn't foolish enough to deny it. Seeing Asher, even more flustered than she was, her playful side took over. She mouthed back, so exciting. Asher, not a lip reader, frowned. So exciting, he mumbled. Then his eyes widened in realization. All the pieces clicked into place. Not because he was a genius, but because her attack was relentless. The waitresses, oblivious, began to present the dishes. This is our peanut butter French toast, made with toast imported directly from France. You won't find this taste anywhere else, one said, rattling off the names of the other dishes. Foie gras, crepes, black truffle cheese, orbs, French lamb chops. Asher and Scarlett were too preoccupied to pay attention. They were locked in a stalemate. Asher kept both hands under the table, feigning politeness as if waiting for the staff to finish their presentation before eating. In reality, he needed both hands to keep Scarlett's 2 feet under control. She, unable to advance or retreat, simply picked up her knife and fork with a dazzling smile. Let's eat. I knew you didn't order, so I ordered plenty for us. Go on, try some. Talk about a psychological gut punch. Why do I feel like my biggest enemy isn't the protagonist, but this damn dog? Asher forced a smile. I'll wait until the staff is finished. The waitresses were touched. Mr. Vance, you can start eating now. Yes, please don't wait for us. You should eat while it's hot. Asher was a national heartthrob. His public image was even bigger than some real-life billionaires. He gave an awkward but polite smile. It's fine. I'm happy to wait. The waitresses were even more moved. The youngest one suddenly piped up. Mr. Vance, You don't want us to feed you, do you? Screch. The sound of Scarlett's knife scraping against her plate was like nails on a chalkboard. She gave the young waitress a look that was anything but sweet. The girl was instantly terrified, tears welling up in her eyes. Damn it, she-devil, don't scare the poor girl. Asher had to give Scarlett credit. She was more effective than the protagonist. A single look, a single gesture, and she had the manager practically peeing her pants and this young waitress in tears. Impressive. The two older waitresses rushed to apologize. Ms. Joe, we're so sorry. She's new. She doesn't know any better. Mia, what are you doing just standing there? Apologize, the other hissed. The young waitress, Mia, hid behind them, sobbing, Ms. Joe, I didn't mean it. Seizing the opportunity, Asher stepped in. What did she do wrong? If Scarlett was annoyed before, now she was genuinely angry. Asher was taking an outsider's side against hers. Thump! Scarlett slammed her hand on the table and yanked her feet back. Asher's mouth twitched. Oh, she's really mad now. This was bad. He had waited for a momentary pause in her assault before letting go. Scarlett shot him a furious glare and began eating in a stony silence. Asher sighed. This had gotten out of hand. He honestly hadn't wanted to make her angry. He needed a new plan. You can all leave for now, he said to the waitresses. The two older ones quickly pulled Mia away. Then, to Scarlett's surprise, Asher stood up and left as well. In the moment he was gone, Scarlett heard nothing. Not a single thought from him. Her hands, holding her cutlery, trembled. He's angry too? Who cares if that stupid wolf is angry? He's the one who made me upset first. Scarlett felt incredibly wronged, but her pride wouldn't let her cry. The exquisite food turned to ash in her mouth. A few moments later, Asher returned. Scarlett kept her face turned away, a cold silence descending between them. For a second, it felt like they were back to being strangers. Asher wasn't sure if he should be relieved or disappointed. From the perspective of getting home, this was good, but he was only human. Even if she was just an NPC in a book, the ache in his own chest felt undeniably real. Sir, what piece would you like to hear? Asked the young French violinist who had returned with Asher. Asher placed several $100 bills on the table. Play a time for us. The beautiful, gentle melody of the theme from Romeo and Juliet filled the air. Scarlett's eyes widened in surprise. She knew the song well. It was a symbol of timeless, romantic love. A small smile broke through her icy facade, the anger melting away. Damn it, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be sticking to the original plot. Oh, whatever. Consider it payment for your family helping my old man. Asher told himself, and began to enjoy his meal. The food, he had to admit, was exquisite. He'd only taken a few bites when he felt that familiar, ticklish sensation again. His eyelid twitched. He had the distinct feeling he'd just been played. The parade of delicate dishes came and went, and though the meal had been a trial for Asher, it was finally over. The restaurant presented them with an elegant parting gift. Asher, uninterested, tossed it to Scarlett. She clutched it like a precious treasure, a smile never leaving her face. They confirmed the arrangements for Lawrence Vance's checkup for that evening. Afterward, Scarlett wanted Asher to take her for a drive, but he flatly refused. Lunch was one thing, but he wasn't pushing his luck. By now, he was genuinely afraid of her. He jumped in his LaFerrari and sped off, remembering she had her own driver and car. He drove around for a while, digesting, and returned to Vance Corporation around 4 in the afternoon. The moment he walked in, he saw a crowd of male employees huddled around the recruitment office, their faces alight with excitement. Some were even standing on chairs to get a better view. Curious, Asher walked over. They were so engrossed, they didn't even notice him. Dude, that mixed-race beauty is an absolute bombshell. And that body. My God, I hope she gets assigned to our department. Keep dreaming. I heard she has dual master's degrees from MIT. Your department couldn't handle that kind of genius. Holy cow, forget the body. Just looking at that face nearly made my legs give out. Huh, you didn't want your legs to give out. You just didn't want to walk away. She's insanely sexy. Not quite on Ms. Joe's or Ms. Hayes' level, but still a rare gem. Asher was confused. Mixed race beauty? Bombshell body? Is it for real? An image of a bewitching figure surfaced in his mind. Well, I'll be damned. The protagonist is really stepping up his game, moving the face-slapping plot forward ahead of schedule. I love it. Asher grinned internally, but he needed to confirm if the woman inside was who he thought she was. Ahem. He cleared his throat lightly. Who's that? Dude, we're busy. Even the department heads are in line to get a look. Get to the back of the... Mr. Vance? The man who spoke froze, his face turning beet red. At the sound of his voice, the crowd snapped to attention. Dozens of pairs of eyes swiveled to Asher. Crap, why is the boss back at this hour? What are you worried about? We finished our work. We're allowed to slack off in our free time. Easy for you to say. Hey, if you're gonna run, don't step on my shoes. Ha, good afternoon, Mr. Vance. The crowd scattered. Even though company policy allowed for free time after work was completed, you still had to show the boss some respect. Why are you all running? Asher said, exasperated. If your work is done, you can stay. A few of them paused, then, cheering Asher's name, eagerly returned to their spots. This only confirmed how stunning the woman inside must be. The crowd parted for him. The door to the recruitment office was open, and Asher followed their gaze to the center of attention. Standing in the interview room was a woman with a cascade of dark, wavy hair who looked more like a succubus than a human. Her figure was breathtaking, poured into a wine-red business suit. Her long, tan legs were accentuated by a pair of strappy, silver stiletto sandals that wrapped around her perfect ankles, making it impossible to look away. She radiated an aura of raw, untamed sensuality. Asher estimated she was about 5'9", a standout height for a woman, and with her heels, she was close to 5'11". Thanks to his Iron Mantle skill, Asher had grown another inch or so, putting his own height just shy of 6 feet. He could just about handle it. An old acquaintance. Seeing her again, Asher understood why his employees were rooted to the spot. She definitely had the goods. The woman inside, accustomed to being the center of attention, had learned to tolerate the stares, though she loathed them. The sudden silence from outside was unexpected. Curious, she glanced toward the door and saw him. Her target, Asher Vance. Asher watched her as he walked into the interview room. Hey, don't be rude. We let you guys look. Now you want to come in? Get out. I'm closing the door. The hiring manager shouted, then saw who it was and immediately regretted his words. Damn this mouth of mine. Why can't I look before I speak? He wanted to slap himself. Mr. Vance, what brings you here? The middle-aged manager said, rushing over with an obsequious smile. Asher raised an eyebrow. Should I leave? No, that's not what I meant. Mr. Vance, you're welcome anytime, the manager stammered, looking like he was about to kneel. As Asher sized up the woman, she was sizing him up as well. Not bad looking, I guess, she thought. A pretty boy. Too bad I'm not into men. Her name was Cassandra Lee. Not bad looking. Too bad she plays for the other team. Who's there? Who's talking? Cassandra exclaimed, her eyes wide. She was certain she hadn't imagined it. The voice was too real. An operative in the top 10 of the Dragon's Den didn't suffer from auditory hallucinations. Before she could process it, the voice sounded off again. So the crooked-mouthed Dragon King finally made his move. Since you're here early, you've saved me some time. I'll just find an excuse to stick you in the usual spot. Well, if that's her preference, it's none of my business. Sigh. But now the 10 beauties of Vance Corp are probably going to be in trouble. I'm letting a wolf into the henhouse. Wait, I figured out the shortcut to accelerating the plot. I just have to piss off anyone connected to the story. And pissing you off, Cassandra Lee, should be easy. Ding. Congratulations, host. Personal charm, +3. Asher smiled and extended a hand toward Cassandra. Hello, I'm Asher Vance. I'm the CEO of this company. A look of utter shock and confusion flashed in Cassandra's fox-like eyes. Cassie Lee stared at Asher Vance's outstretched hand, her expression frozen. The smirking Dragon King. He had to be talking about Leo Flynn. During her time at the Dragon's Den, she'd seen Leo flash that grin at her more than once. She hadn't thought anything of it then, but looking back now, it was undeniable. That crooked, self-important smirk. So arrogant. So disrespectful. But that wasn't the only thing that shocked her. Asher knew. He knew their entire plan. And what truly shattered her composure was the realization that, knowing full well they meant him harm, he was helping them. What in the world was going on? Not shaking my hand. That won't do. The whole point is to piss you off so you'll run straight to the Dragon King with intel. Asher's smile remained fixed as he pressed the issue. Ms. Lee, you're here applying for a position at my company. Aren't you going to show your future general manager some basic courtesy? As if on autopilot, Cassie extended her hand and placed it in his. It felt soft, almost boneless. A faint, pleasant perfume wafted from her, a scent that was both expensive and captivating. Across the office, male employees watched with unconcealed envy, practically drooling. Forget winning the goddess's favor. Just shaking her hand would be enough to keep them buzzing for weeks. Power was a wonderful thing, and it was flexing its muscles right now. Asher's smile faltered for a split second. He glanced from his hand to Cassie's, then back to her face, which showed no sign of discomfort. He was thrown into another spiral of self-doubt. What the hell? Is this a joke? Isn't Cassie supposed to hate physical contact with men? Logically, She should have made an excuse to refuse. Then I was supposed to insist, triggering a deeper level of hostility. You're not following the script. Wait, right? I kind of added this part myself. Okay, let's try giving it a little squeeze. Maybe that'll provoke her. Cassie, for the love of God, don't pull a Scarlet or a Serafina and go off script at the crucial moment. A notification chimed in his mind. Ding. Congratulations, host. Personal intellect +1. Asher's grip on her hand tightened slightly, as if he couldn't bear to let go. He watched her face intently for a reaction. Cassie's brow furrowed for a mere instant, and then, nothing. She didn't pull her hand away. She just let him hold it, her mind a complete blank. In the space of a few minutes, she had stumbled upon a secret so monumental it shook her to the core. Before coming to the States, she had compiled a comprehensive dossier on Asher Vance, his personality, his habits, his entire life story. But now she understood. His inner voice was his true self. Cassie's full, pink lips parted slightly, a sight that could make a man weak. Asher's focus sharpened instantly. Here it comes. The cold shoulder. But all she said was, Mr. Vance, how did you know my last name is Lee? Huh. Asher was dumbfounded. Is that important? That's not important. Aren't you supposed to be giving me attitude? Snatching your hand away and telling me to respect your personal space? Besides, I don't just know you're Cassie Lee. I know you're Seraph, one of the Dragon Den's top 10 operators. I also remember saving you when your car exploded. You have a gem embedded near your hip, don't you? A very shiny, very eye-catching one. Crap, that's not important either. Can't let her know I know. Thinking fast, Asher's eyes darted to the application form on the desk. A smile bloomed on his face as he pointed with his free hand. It's written right there on your resume, isn't it? Cassie didn't even glance where he was pointing. Her world was tilting on its axis. Last time? Car explosion? He saved me? She frantically searched her memory, but came up with nothing. This was the first time they had ever met. What last time was he talking about? Pushing those thoughts aside, she bit her lip, a flicker of shame and fury in her eyes. The idea that a man had seen her body was the one thing she could not tolerate, no matter the reason. Asher Vance was now officially on her kill list. Mr. Vance, she said, her voice surprisingly calm, her expression neutral. Could you let go of my hand now? The question of how he knew her name was forgotten. Oh, Asher released her, completely baffled. Then again, Serafina and Scarlet had changed, too. Maybe this was just a side effect of rerunning the plot? If he couldn't figure it out, he wasn't going to waste energy on it. Cassie Lee was a key asset in Leo Flynn's plan to dismantle Vance Corporation. In the original story, she used her executive position to falsify data and sabotage the company from within. She did everything a good corporate mole was supposed to do. Asher turned to the hiring manager. What's the verdict on her application? The middle-aged manager stepped forward nervously. Ms. Lee's degrees and credentials have all been verified, sir. They're legitimate. We just need to assess her practical skills and determine the best departmental fit. Legitimate, my ass. The degrees, all of it, are forgeries. As if she had time to go to school. What a load of crap. Asher was exasperated. Getting Cassie into the company was just a formality. He figured he might as well grease the wheels and help the Dragon King get his empire building underway sooner rather than later. I have a good feeling about her. She seems sharp, Asher said, deciding to fast-track the process. Let's bring her on. As for her placement, I've already got something in mind. He was pulling rank, and everyone knew it. The other candidates outside, who had fought tooth and nail for a spot at Vance Corp, were stunned. Some of them had qualifications just as impressive as Cassie's, yet they had to go through the whole grueling process. Asher was letting her in without a single practical test. A wave of resentment rippled through them. The only way to quell their anger would be to at least place her in one of their departments. Sir, the manager hesitated. This violated a strict rule set by Eleanor Vance herself. No matter how sterling the credentials, every candidate had to demonstrate corresponding skill and talent to get into Vance Corporation. Someone with a state school degree could get hired over an Ivy Leaguer if they had the real-world chops. Asher's eye twitched. An assessment? Fine. That was easy enough. He turned back to Cassie. Ms. Lee, you seem to be in excellent shape. I imagine you put a lot of work into it. A flicker of unease crossed Cassie's face. The game hadn't even started, and her cover was already blown. This man knew everything. He probably knew the inner workings of the Dragon's Den, its structure, its funding, its global operations. She managed a tight knot. I work out occasionally. So you're strong? Flexible? Asher pressed. Cassie nodded again, flustered. All she wanted was to escape. The feeling of being completely exposed was unnerving. The harmless-looking man before her was the most terrifying person she had ever met. Asher grinned. Good. A woman with your kind of flexibility. You could do a split, right? A full one. A faint blush crept up Cassie's cheeks. She had been bracing for some outrageous, humiliating demand. The hiring manager was speechless. Outside, the male employees were equally dumbfounded, a reaction that quickly morphed into giddy excitement. Please, for the love of all that is holy, do a split, they all thought. Mr. Vance's hiring methods were, without a doubt, the best in corporate history. Forget performance reviews and sales quotas. This was what really mattered. If the situation allowed, they would have already started chanting his name. A woman who could do a split was clearly management material. For Cassie Lee, doing a split was as natural as breathing. If you had legs, you could do it. It was child's play. Asher thought it was a brilliant suggestion. Quick, easy, and efficient. He let his gaze drift down. Cassie was wearing a wine-red pencil skirt that hugged a truly explosive curve, creating a perfect S-line. It was a lot. Asher's smile twitched. He hadn't considered her outfit. She had the ability, but not the right equipment. That professional skirt was holding her back. The men outside grew even more excited, their inner voices roaring. All hail Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance is a genius. This was more motivating than the last round of raises. Cassie glanced down at her attire and forced a smile, though inside, she wanted nothing more than to kill him. I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. I could do a split, but this outfit isn't exactly suitable. Asher beamed. Of course it's not suitable. If it were, I wouldn't be forcing you. That's the whole point. Do it anyway. Hate me for it, baby, and then go start some trouble. This isn't about suitability, Ms. Lee. It's about professionalism and commitment. You want this job, but you're unwilling to showcase your talents for it. How can I justify bringing you into this company? He said, his voice ringing with mock sincerity. Look at everyone out there. They all got here through hard work and proven skill. Am I right? A chorus of enthusiastic agreement erupted from the crowd. Yes, Mr. Vance is absolutely right. My buddy had better grades than me, and we applied together. But he failed the practical assessment. I was lucky enough to join this family. He still kicks himself over it every day. Come on, lady, your test is way easier than. Well, about the same as ours. Show us what you've got. Faced with the clamor of the horny onlookers, Cassie felt nothing but contempt. When she first walked in, she was determined to get into Vance Corp no matter what. Not anymore. After hearing Asher's thoughts, her only instinct was to run. Mole? Screw that. I'm out of here. She shook her head. Mr. Vance, I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill your request. This job is important to me, but I'm confident that with my skills, I can find a position at any other major corporation. With that, she turned to gather her resume, fully intending to walk out. Asher's mind went blank. Oh crap, I overplayed my hand. It backfired. Are you serious right now? You're actually leaving? The Dragon King gave you a mission. Are you just going to abandon it? You're supposed to be a dedicated mole. If you leave, what am I supposed to do? Who's going to bring down my family? Who's going to ruin my corporate empire? Who's going to fill up the tank of my LaFerrari? Okay, that last part isn't your problem, but still. Swallowing the urge to curse, Asher stepped in front of her, his heart pounding. You're leaving? Cassie nodded, silent. For a moment, Asher looked genuinely heartbroken, a pained expression on his face. To an outside observer, it would seem he had really taken a liking to the stunning biracial beauty and was hoping for a little office romance on the side while pursuing Serafina. Holy hell, you're really going? This isn't a bluff? If you leave, what about my plan for the 10 beauties of Vance Corp? I've already arranged your position. It's the same one as last time, a high-level cushy job with a lot of power. And the office is full of gorgeous women. 5 of the top beauties at Vance Corp are in that department. They might not be on Scarlett or Serafina's level, but each one is a knockout. Some are even prettier than you. And she's gone. What a shame. I guess I'll just have to wait for the Dragon King to send someone else. Cassie's honey-toned leg, which had been about to step out of the office, froze in mid-air. She slowly lowered it, swallowed hard, and turned back around. After careful consideration, she announced, her tone suddenly bright. I've decided I should give it a try. Vance Corporation has an excellent reputation, and the salary and benefits are far superior to its competitors. Since I'm already here, I feel I must see it through. The sudden stream of ass-kissing left Asher momentarily speechless. It was surprisingly pleasant to listen to. Strange how a well-told lie could sound better than the truth, especially when delivered with such sincerity. Just look at Cassie's fox-like eyes, sparkling with earnestness. Was she playing hard to get? Asher decided he didn't care. You'll do the split, you get the job. I'll sign off on your hiring papers myself. Cassie glanced down her skirt, then at the men outside, their eyes wide as dinner plates. Asher Vance, if you're lying to me, your entire family is dead. And if I find out your so-called 10 beauties are a bunch of hags, you won't have to wait for the Dragon King. I'll take you down myself. A slight blush colored her cheeks as she stated her terms. Fine, but I'll only do it for you. Asher understood immediately. A woman of her persuasion had principles. It was a good thing. For someone like Cassie, this was a huge concession. Pushing her any further would just make her walk out again, and that would be a total loss. He turned to the others in the room. All of you out. Instantly, the hopeful faces inside and outside the office fell. The collective psychic damage was palpable. Some of the men looked like they'd willingly give up a month's salary just for a peek. Soon, the room was empty and the door was locked, leaving only Asher and Cassie inside. A few of the more desperate employees outside considered peeking through the keyhole, but Vance Corp didn't hire cheap contractors like Apex Properties. The materials were top of the line, the construction world class. The door was solid, the room soundproof. They wouldn't see a thing. Asher shrugged. The stage is yours. The beautiful woman hesitated. After a brief internal war, she finally said, fine. Asher was already on her kill list anyway. She could just pretend a puppy was watching. She reached down, tugging her skirt up just a fraction of an inch, revealing a hint of black lace. Then, with a fluid twist of her powerful, visually stunning hips, she extended her long, honey-colored legs, one forward, one back, and pressed down until they were perfectly flat against the floor. A perfect split. Her legs formed a flawless 180-degree line. If you brought in a laser level from a construction site, you'd find they were perfectly parallel to the ground. Damn, Asher thought. This woman isn't in the adult entertainment industry. What a waste. She could probably kill a man with those legs. After appreciating the performance, he picked up her resume and nodded with satisfaction. Very impressive. You clearly have real talent. Your skills match your credentials. No fraud here. He drew a check mark on her file. Cassie frantically tried to pull her skirt down, but it wouldn't budge. Any more force, and she'd rip it. Asher hadn't said anything, but his eyes had been glued to her lower body the entire time. Her underwear had been completely exposed. Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Vance, she said, her voice icy as she stood up. Her sudden shift in attitude delighted Asher. No, thank you. It's the truth. With you on our team, how could Vance Corp not prosper? Prosper until it collapses. All things in moderation, right? As long as you're unhappy, I'm happy. Now remember to start making trouble soon. Don't disappoint me. Cassie's brow furrowed. She couldn't figure him out. Which words were real and which were fake? He'd say one thing out loud while thinking the complete opposite. But his thoughts, those had to be the most honest part of him. She had decided to stay not just because of the beautiful women, but for another critical reason. Asher's inner ramblings about protagonists and the plot seemed connected to how he knew she was a mole and let her in anyway. She didn't know the secret yet, but she was determined to find out. Asher handed her resume back and opened the door. Can you start tomorrow? Yes. Cassie tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Good. I'll show you around your new workspace. Follow me. Cassie followed him out. The crowd of men outside saw them emerge, both looking composed and professional, and were collectively stunned. They had expected Asher to take advantage of the situation. It seemed his love for Serafina Hayes was real after all. He asked for a split, and all he got was a split. After Asher left with a stunning new hire, the crowd dispersed back to their desks, each man secretly hoping she'd be assigned to his department. They were all destined for disappointment. After a winding journey through the building's corridors, Asher led Cassie to a relatively secluded office. It wasn't large. It could hold 10 people at most. He had prepared it specifically for her. It was a subdivision of the planning department, tasked with refining proposals, monitoring their implementation, and submitting final reports. Anyone with half a brain could see it was a department with a lot of leeway and very little oversight, a place where things could happen. The department currently had 9 members. All of them, without exception, were women. This was Asher's way of catering to her tastes. Couldn't have his star lesbian running off, could he? If she left, who would be there to tell him how handsome he was? Even though Asher knew his good looks were an undeniable fact, it was always nice to have a sycophant around. This small department contained the top 5 beauties of Vance Corporation. Number 1 was the team leader, Zoe Zhou, 27, single with a sharp tongue, a distant cousin of Scarlett Zhou. Her looks and figure were easily on par with Cassie's, proving the Zhou family had some killer genes. Number 2 was the vice leader, Summer, 24, never been in a relationship, naturally bubbly. A campus beauty queen from NYU Stern, she'd been the most popular girl in school from elementary through college. Number 3 was Claire, 24, also single, and Summer's best friend from the same university. Their friendship was so close that Claire sometimes seemed to have other ideas about Summer. She was also a severe germaphobe, but made an exception for Summer and anything belonging to her. Number 4, Connie Kong, 26, had a boyfriend. Number 5, and so on. Even the women who didn't make the top 5 list were stunning enough to turn heads anywhere else. As they entered the office, Asher had the women introduce themselves one by one. Cassie's eyes went wide. This wasn't hell. Asher wasn't the devil. This was paradise, and Asher was God himself. Her heart began to hammer against her ribs. Asher watched her dazed expression and laughed internally. Ha ha. Speechless, aren't you? To make sure you'd stay at Vance Corp and be a good little mole for the Dragon King, I went to the trouble of gathering all these goddesses in one place for you. You need a good work-life balance, right? Even though your job is easy, just causing trouble, I don't want you to get too stressed. Man, it was a pain in the ass to keep all these bombshells hidden away here. This place may be secluded, but its reputation inside and outside the company is huge. They have countless admirers. The rest is up to you. Asher let out a silent sigh of satisfaction. After the introductions were finished, he said, "All right, this will be your new workplace. I have other business to attend to, so I'll be leaving." Cassie's eyes were filled with gratitude as she gazed at him, her look almost tender. At that moment, she just wanted to thank him for his incredible generosity. This wasn't work, it was a paid vacation. And as for the Dragon King? That bastard was so cheap he never bothered to provide a decent expense account, let alone any perks. Compared to how Asher treated his employees, Leo Flynn was a total joke. Before Cassie could say anything, the team leader, Zoe Zhou, rushed over and grabbed Asher's arm. "Mr. Vance, stay for a cup of tea before you go, won't you?" she purred, shooting him a sultry look. "What tea? Is that how you ask someone to have tea? Are you trying to test your general manager with tea? If you want to proposition me, just say it." "Nope, I'm out of here." Asher shook his head, his expression serious. "I can't, I'm busy." Summer bounced over, a cheerful grin on her face. "Don't be in such a rush, Mr. Vance. You hardly ever visit. It's been so long since I've seen you." She was one of Asher's direct hires and had a sisterly affection for him. Claire looked slightly displeased, but also spoke up, asking him to stay. Faced with the pleas of this flock of beautiful women, Asher feigned a reluctant sigh. "All right, fine. I must challenge my greatest weakness." Cassie couldn't help but smile, her curiosity about Asher growing by the second. Everything the world thought it knew about him was a lie. Only the voice she heard was his true self. She had never read the novel, but from his words, she deduced that this world was like a movie or a TV show, and a novel was the source material. This had to be the novel's world. In the original plot, she was supposed to get hired into this department after a while, then blackmail several of the women into grinding tofu with her. She would have used some major dirt on the team leader, Zoe, to seize control and become the queen bee of the office. This was the summary she'd pieced together from his thoughts so far. She still didn't know what the blackmail material was, since Asher had only complained about it in vague terms. Cassie licked her lips, her gaze softening. She had to admit it. Asher's sugar-coated bullets were devastatingly effective. For the first time, she considered turning against Leo Flynn. If Vance Corp collapsed, where else would she find so many gorgeous women? The United States was truly a land of plenty. The women here were exquisite, perfectly to her taste. Like Summer and Claire, especially Claire, Cassie sensed a kindred spirit in her. Under the guise of checking on his subordinates' well-being, Asher stayed for a while, sipping tea and chatting with the women. Despite his many titles, heir to the Vance fortune, New York's #1 young master, general manager, he was completely down to earth. He treated everyone the same, regardless of their status or profession. He could also be witty and charming, which was why the women adored spending time with him. Here, he could be his most authentic self, because he knew these women weren't gossips. He did, however, have to fend off Zoe's predatory stares, which sent shivers down his spine. He occasionally fell back on his lovesick puppy persona to keep her at a distance. The Zhou family was terrifying. They were experts at cultivating she-devils. This department was a sinecure. Sometimes it was busy, but most days were incredibly relaxed. The real work happened in the main planning department. This place was more of a showpiece, a lure for talent. Outsiders thought that getting into Vance planning meant spending every day surrounded by goddesses. They had no idea that once they got in, they'd be surrounded by guys just as thirsty as they were. It was well past quitting time, but because Asher was there, none of the women made a move to leave, hoping he'd stay a little longer. After another half hour, Asher couldn't take it anymore. He really had to go. As he left, he pretended not to notice the disappointed looks from the women. He hadn't gotten far down the hall when Cassie caught up to him. Asher looked at her, puzzled. What's wrong? Not settling in. Cassie shook her head and took out her phone, pulling up a QR code. No, it's not that. I was hoping I could add you on WhatsApp. I'd like to take you out to dinner in a few days. She meant it. The hand holding her phone trembled slightly. Her contact list was exclusively comprised of beautiful women. Not a single man. Even with Leo, she only communicated by phone. This was the first time she had ever proactively asked for a man's contact information, and her heart was fluttering with anxiety. Huh? Add me? Are you insane? What about your tofu grinding career? Asher sucked in a sharp breath, utterly shocked. But a moment later, enlightenment dawned. Oh, I get it. You want an easier way to pass my intel to the Dragon King. You should have just said so. I wouldn't have just added you. I'd have handed over every file you wanted. Cassie, I have high hopes for you. Keep up the good work. Asher smiled, relieved. He scanned her code with his phone and sent a request. A notification popped up, friendship request accepted. He held up his phone. There, we're connected. You can set my contact name yourself. Then he turned and walked away. Cassie stared at his retreating back, then at the first male contact ever to appear on her phone. It took her a full minute to come back to her senses. She thought she might actually be going insane, just like Asher's inner voice said. Otherwise, why would she ever add a man to her contacts? She had a severe case of emotional OCD, a kind of puritanism that couldn't tolerate a single speck of dust. Men simply did not exist in her dictionary. Today was an exception. A few days flew by. After taking the traditional Chinese medicine prescribed by Dr. Julian Zhou, Lawrence Vance's chronic health issues had shown marked improvement. This led him to double down on pressuring Asher to marry Scarlett Zhou as soon as possible. Would Asher agree? Of course not. He'd stall for as long as he could. The way Scarlett looked at him, like she wanted to devour him whole, made him fear for his physical well-being. He'd die in battle before the war even started. Before he could even give the protagonist a chance to look cool, he'd be entangled and suffocated by Scarlett. He couldn't afford to play that game, so he'd avoid it. One morning, at the breakfast table in the sprawling Vance mansion. Asher, listen to your mother for once, Eleanor said. Just move the wedding up. It would be good for both you and Scarlett. Asher felt like his ears were about to fall off. Mom, I'm full. You and Dad enjoy your meal. BM. Lawrence slammed his hand on the table in frustration. Sit down, you brat. Fine, Asher grumbled, reluctantly taking his seat again to endure the lecture. To him, getting married or not was irrelevant. It was just another scene to play out. But his parents were rushing things. Couldn't they leave a little room for the protagonist to work his magic? Let him confess his love to Serafina a few more times to properly piss off the story's destined couple. Then the hero could rise. How dare you? A worthless playboy dares to touch the woman I, the Dragon King, have claimed? You must have a death wish. The Dragon King's fury would then bring ruin upon the Vance family. The plot would be complete, and everyone could go home happy. Dad, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm late for work, Asher said with a strained smile. Lawrence's eyes bulged as he craned his neck. How did I, Lawrence Vance, raise a son like you? Don't you understand? It's time for you to settle down. You're not getting any younger. You'll be married by the end of this month. Asher's eyelid twitched. The wedding of a Vance heir was a massive event. Every big name in the city would be there, even influential figures from D.C. He remembered from a last timeline that the preparations alone took half a month. The paparazzi coverage, the trending hashtags, it was bigger than New Year's Eve. A dizzying series of ceremonies and receptions, toasting guests from morning till night. He had been utterly exhausted. Dad, you look like you're still in your prime. You and Mom aren't that old. The government is pushing for whoosh. Before Asher could finish, an object came flying at his face. Not an Indian flatbread, but a ceramic bowl. It was a bowl-to-face assault. Before his mind could even register it, his body reflexively dodged. Crash! The porcelain bowl shattered on the floor. You ungrateful whelp. Are you trying to give me a heart attack? Lawrence was beet red, his body trembling with rage. Eleanor blushed, shooting her son a look of exasperation. Asher, what are you talking about? I wasn't. Whoa. Asher saw his father reach for another bowl. The first one had been empty. This one was full of soup. He wasn't afraid of the pain, but he was afraid of the mess. Lawrence, calm down, Eleanor said, gently patting her husband's back. Asher was trapped. He couldn't leave, but staying was miserable. The villain, forced by his parents to marry the she-devil. It could be a novel in its own right. Finally, Asher couldn't take it anymore. He was about to make a decision that would betray his ancestors. He was going to bolt. Wait, Lawrence commanded. Dad, come on. I'm already an hour late for work. You're the general manager. Who's going to say anything? Try that excuse with me again, and I'll really kick you out. I'll cut your allowance to $100,000 a month. Fine, you win. What is it? Asher conceded. $100,000 a month sounded like a lot, and it was a struggling author with a lost pet fish could only dream of such an income. But for Asher, it was nothing. The gas for his fleet of supercars, his private yacht, and his jet cost more than that. Lawrence nodded, satisfied. Your sister is flying in from overseas today. I want you to pick her up. Asher froze, a look of disbelief on his face. Are you kidding me? There was no way Chloe was coming back now. Something was wrong. An image of a petite girl with an unexpectedly formidable figure appeared in his mind. She was beautiful, yes. As a child, she'd been adorable, always trailing behind him like a little shadow. But ever since she started middle school, it was like she'd become a different person. She was cold, dismissive, and sometimes she'd even physically attack him. And don't be fooled by the fact that she was a girl. From a young age, she had begged Eleanor to enroll her in every martial arts class available, hiring the best instructors. Through grueling training, wind, and rain, day after day, year after year, Chloe had kept at it. It was no exaggeration to say that as a kid, Asher had been thoroughly beaten up by her. The incident that started it all was when Jessica Young had given him some imported candy. They were just kids. What did they know? He hadn't even realized what was happening before she'd handed it over. Maybe the little girl just thought sweet things should be shared. At the time, Asher was widely acknowledged as the cutest little boy in their class, universally adored. Anyway, Chloe, who had come looking for him, happened to witness this exchange. The rest was history. Young Asher, though mentally more mature than his peers, had scrawny arms and legs. He was no match for a trained martial artist. He was chased around the entire school by the tiny powerhouse. After that, did he vow to train hard himself? Forget it. Why train when you could lie down and enjoy the good life? Snapping back to the present, Asher grimaced. No way, Dad. Send Arthur to get her. Arthur was one of their family's drivers. You will go, Lawrence said, his tone leaving no room for argument. If you don't, you're not welcome back here tonight. Or ever again. Asher wanted to cry. Dad, you know Chloe and I don't get along. She can't stand me, and I feel awkward around her. Lawrence took a sip of soup, unconcerned. That's your problem. I think your sister is wonderful. I don't see any issue. Of course, Asher thought. The daughter is your precious little angel, and the son is your punching bag. He couldn't understand it. Chloe was coming home, so what? Why did she have to specifically request that he pick her up? Technology was so advanced now. Had she never heard of Uber? His stomach was in knots, but he knew he couldn't win. An allowance of only $100,000 a month really wasn't enough for gas, and prices were on a rise. Fine, Asher sighed. What time does her flight land? Why don't you ask her yourself? Lawrence retorted. Don't ask me about every little thing. Who am I supposed to ask? He looked at Asher as if to say, figure it out. You're making this difficult on purpose. Eleanor smoothed things over with a smile. Asher, you have Chloe's number. Just text her. Asher nodded and pulled out his phone. He went to his block list, unblocked the single contact there, and sent a message. Asher, what time does your flight land? A reply came back almost instantly. Chloe, 10 a.m. Bring the Range Rover. I need the space. Huh, a Range Rover? You got a lot of demands, little sister, Asher thought with a cold smirk, putting his phone away. I'm bringing the supercar. That'll piss you off. Their sibling conversations were always this brief and to the point. Mom, Dad, I'm heading out, Asher said. Go on, get out of here. Don't ruin my appetite, Lawrence grumbled. Eleanor added, drive safely, Asher. Watch the road. Meanwhile, on a street corner in New York City, the morning was already in full swing. The city was a buzzing hive of activity, with crowds of people swarming the sidewalks and a river of cars flowing down the streets. Everything was humming with vibrant energy. At a popular bagel cart, a customer placed her usual order. The usual, please, Kate Young said with a smile, holding up 2 fingers. She was on her day off, dressed in casual civilian clothes. The middle-aged vendor grinned back. You got it. 2 everything bagels with cream cheese, 1 coffee. Anything else today? Kate shook her head. No, that's plenty. The vendor's wife, who was helping out, smiled warmly. Officer Young, would you like to try our new special? A rainbow bagel? Kate's eyes lit up. After a moment's thought, she said, sure, I'll take one. Coming right up, the woman said, expertly bagging the order while making small talk. You want a day off today, Officer Young? Kate looked a little embarrassed. Please, you could just call me Kate. The woman quickly shook her head. her weathered face honest and sincere. "Oh no, I couldn't do that. That would be presumptuous of me." Kate wasn't just a police officer. She was the second daughter of the powerful Young family. She was also a regular at their card. It didn't take a genius to put two and two together. After a few neighbors who recognized Kate pointed it out, the card owner and his wife finally understood who she was. Kate sighed. She never knew if the Young family name was more of a help or a hindrance. It brought her convenience, but also a lot of trouble. All she wanted was to be an ordinary police officer serving the community, to prove her own worth and value. She didn't want to rely on the golden reputation of the Young family to earn respect. Simply put, Kate wanted people to recognize her for her efforts, not to recognize her because they recognized her family. The difference was huge. "It's not presumptuous at all," Kate said, her brow furrowing as her tone sharpened unintentionally. The woman flinched. Kate caught herself. "Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so harsh. How much do I owe you?" The woman recovered, offering a hesitant smile. "The bagels are $4. The coffee is $3. $11 total." Kate looked confused. "What about the rainbow bagel?" "That's on the house. A gift for you, Kate." "Stop. Thief. That's my grandson's medical money. Please give it back." A heart-wrenching, elderly cry pierced the morning air. Not far away, an old woman who had just left the bank was being mugged. The robber was a young man, a drifter hopelessly addicted to online gambling. He'd had a terrible losing streak, blowing all his money and racking up a massive debt with a loan shark. As he passed the bank, he saw the old woman at the counter withdrawing a thick stack of $100 bills. Greed took over. He waited for her to come out, and when she wasn't looking, he snatched the overstuffed red cloth bag from her shoulder. If it had been anyone else, the young man might have thought twice. But unfortunately for him, freeze! Forgetting all about paying, Kate's body reacted on instinct. The moment she heard the cry, she was already moving. In the sweltering summer heat, New York City was blanketed with security cameras. There was nowhere to hide, and yet, someone still had the audacity to commit robbery in broad daylight. It was as if they were personally insulting her. The masked youth was a fast runner. There was already a considerable distance between them. Even though Kate was quick, catching him would be a struggle. The sudden sprint sent a jolt of adrenaline through her, but her stomach was empty, and she hadn't eaten a thing all morning. They raced down the street, the distance between them gradually increasing. In the end, Kate was still a woman, and her stamina couldn't match a man's. Her head began to feel dizzy. "You bastard! Stop right there!" she yelled, her voice filled with frustration. The youth was clever, weaving through the densest parts of the crowd. By the time people realized what was happening, he was already long gone. "Heh, trying to outrun me? You must be joking. I was the school champion in the 100-meter dash, you know." The masked youth sneered inwardly. He hung around this area often and knew the streets like the back of his hand. He had planned his escape route before he even committed the crime. He just hadn't expected a beautiful woman to be chasing him so relentlessly. He was nearing the next block. Once there, he could use the terrain to lose her for good. A surge of joy made him pick up his pace. "Police, if you return the money now, I promise you'll get a lighter sentence." Kate gasped, struggling to get the words out. "Are you even human? Stealing a grandmother's life-saving money. You animal, you piece of—" She tried to appeal to his morality, to awaken some shred of decency in the misguided youth. But stopping now would be the stupidest thing he could do. His eyes were bloodshot. A voice in his head was screaming that if he just had 2 hours, he could double this money. Then if he got caught, he could just give the original amount back. Leo Flynn was wandering the streets aimlessly. For the past few days, he had been frequenting some of New York's most famous bars, hunting for women. He had successfully betted a few attractive ones, though he had no idea how many partners they'd had before him. He didn't care. The dark energy from his cultivation technique had been temporarily suppressed. Seraph has infiltrated Vance Corporation and is already in a position of trust. Now to plant a few more seeds. "Asher Vance, you useless playboy. What do you got to fight me with? Huh? Soon, your family's fortune will be mine." Leo swallowed. The wealth of Vance Corporation was crucial to his plans. American law didn't allow for blatant robbery, but he could operate in the shadows. It was Asher's own fault for getting in his way and trying to steal Seraphina from him. That was one thing a god of war could never forgive. A frantic female voice cut through Leo's thoughts, pulling him back to reality. A robbery? He quickly assessed the situation. Robberies were common overseas, happening all the time. Homeless people with guns, real-life GTA scenarios, it was all normal. Leo couldn't be bothered to intervene. He glanced instinctively in the direction of the voice and saw a stunning figure sprinting toward him, chasing a thief who was far ahead of her. A single glance was all it took. Leo was captivated. Beautiful. New York was a truly magical place. In less than a few months, he had already encountered 3 peerlessly beautiful women. Leo quickly concealed the greedy look in his eyes, his intentions changing in an instant. He stepped forward and blocked the path of the young man who was about to run past him. "I'm warning you, old man. Stay the hell out of my..." The youth snarled, his eyes red and murderous. But the killing intent radiating from Leo was 1,000 times more intense. The youth felt as if he had been targeted by some primordial beast. The next thing he knew, he was on the ground, a searing pain shooting through his back and wrist. Kate saw this and breathed a sigh of relief, but she didn't slow down. A few moments later, she arrived, panting heavily. "Thank you so much," she managed to say. The youth was incapacitated. Kate bent down and snapped a pair of handcuffs, which she carried with her even when off-duty, onto his wrists. Leo stepped back, standing behind her and admiring the view. A perfect face, a body with a powerful visual impact. As she leaned over, the dark fire within him was nearly reignited. Sensing a strange gaze on her, Kate turned around. "Sir, thank you for what you did." As she sized him up, Leo was also watching her, but he skillfully hid all of his darker thoughts. "It was nothing. I just can't stand thieves." Kate offered a small smile. Leo was momentarily lost in it. "So beautiful. What's your name, sir?" Kate asked. She intended to file a report back at the precinct and get him a civilian commendation. Leo flashed a lopsided, charming grin and extended his hand. "My name is Leo Flynn. Leo like the lion. Flynn like in the wind. And you, officer?" Kate was about to reach out when her mind suddenly exploded. Her expression turned strange. "Your name is Leo Flynn?" she asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Leo paused, confused. "Yes. Do you know me?" He was starting to get suspicious. A morning bagel run. A robbery. The Dragon King. A chance encounter with the protagonist. Asher's inner voice echoed in Kate's mind, throwing her thoughts into chaos. "No, I don't," Kate said, her smile looking forced. "Your name just happens to be the same as a college classmate of mine." She quickly invented an excuse. Leo's eyes lit up. He bought it. He actually bought it. That lopsided grin reappeared on his face. "Well, that's fantastic," he chuckled. "It seems we were destined to meet." Ugh. At first, she hadn't found the smile particularly strange. But now her stomach churned. She felt a wave of nausea, so strong she thought she might throw up. Seeing Leo's outstretched hand, she doubled over, one hand on her stomach, the other covering her mouth. She looked absolutely miserable. Leo froze, looking from his hand to her, then sniffing his own clothes. No strange odors. His outfit was fine. Kate's reaction was incredibly rude. A flicker of coldness passed through his eyes. Kate took a moment to compose herself. "I'm so sorry," she explained. "I was just chasing that robber, and I haven't eaten anything this morning, so..." "It's all right. I understand," Leo said instantly, his expression softening as that trademark smirk automatically returned to his lips. "Ugh, Bleck." Kate turned away, her face pale. This time, Leo found her reaction much more acceptable. There was a reason for it, after all. It was excusable. Seeing her looking so unwell, Leo, in a self-proclaimed act of chivalry, withdrew his hand. If this weren't their first meeting, and if he wasn't trying to make a good first impression, he would have stepped forward to pat her on the back. After a few moments, Kate finally recovered, though her face was still white. She looked genuinely sick. "Officer, may I ask your name?" Leo asked again. Kate didn't hide it. It would be easy enough for him to find out anyway. "Kate Young." Leo repeated the name to himself. His eyes widened in recognition. Young, and a police officer. It had to be her, the second daughter of the Young family, the head of the 4 great families. He had done his research on the power structure of New York. He recognized the name because he had also set his sights on Kate's older sister, Jessica Young. The Young family was another juicy target. But for now, his main goal was to topple the behemoth that was the Vance family. Once he controlled their fortune, the other families would fall like dominoes. Leo didn't consider himself a promiscuous man. He certainly didn't think he was a scumbag. It was all the fault of his cultivation technique. It had nothing to do with his true intentions. As a meme he had seen online once said, he just wanted to give all the beautiful women in the world a home. What was so wrong with that? "Wait, stop." Just as Leo was about to flash his smirk again, Kate quickly held up a hand to stop him. His expressions were so reflexive, like breathing or drinking water. "What's wrong?" Leo asked, confused. "Nothing," Kate said. She pulled out her phone and called Captain Miller, explaining the situation. While they waited for the patrol car, Leo made his move. Officer Young, you said you haven't had breakfast. I know a great brunch spot, and I happen to know a little about medicine. I can help you figure out the cause of your nausea. He continued, while intense exercise on an empty stomach can cause it. Your reaction seems unusually strong. I suspect it might be a symptom of something else. It's better to treat small problems before they become big ones. You should really consider my offer. Kate was inwardly astonished. She had to admit, this Leo Flynn did have some skills. But are you really blind to the cause? I feel sick every time I see you smile. She forced a pained smile. No, thank you. My family has a doctor. Leo pressed on, undeterred. My techniques are better. I guarantee you'll see immediate results. His shamelessness made her feel sick all over again. Asher's inner voice was right. This guy was a total creep who couldn't keep in his pants around women. Kate's expression turned cold. I said no. Leo felt a pang of rejection, but then he came to his senses. American women weren't like the women overseas. Some of them were still very reserved. He needed a more gradual approach to win them over. He realized he had been too hasty this time. Soon, a patrol car arrived. The money was returned to the tearful old woman, and the young man was taken into custody. Kate got into the car with them. Captain Miller looked confused. Kate, I thought you were on vacation today. The officer in the driver's seat was equally puzzled. Captain, can't you just give me a ride? Kate snapped. Miller chuckled awkwardly and rubbed his nose. Of course, of course. Evans, what are you waiting for? Drive, right? Officer, Evans replied. As the car pulled away, Leo watched it go. He was the Dragon King. There was no woman he wanted that he couldn't have. At New York's largest international airport, the arrivals hall was a chaotic sea of people. The noise was deafening. Asher had his headphones in, volume cranked to the max, but it still wasn't enough to drown out the cacophony. He sighed and took them off, glancing at his watch. It's almost 10:30. If you don't come out soon, I'm leaving and sending Arthur to get you. He muttered to himself. Honestly, why come back now of all times? He just couldn't figure it out. Can't we all just stick to the plot? Let's get this over with and say our goodbyes. Why is everyone going off script and causing trouble? What's the point? His phone rang, the default ringtone cutting through the noise. Finally, he answered, his tone dripping with annoyance. If you don't get out here in the next 5 minutes, Arthur is coming to get you. What did you just say? Chloe's voice was ice cold. Asher chuckled. You heard me. You dare leave? I swear this won't be over. Oh, I'm so scared. Asher shot back. With his Iron Mantle skill, he wasn't afraid of anyone. He could talk trash all day. They had been at each other's throats since middle school. Sometimes, Chloe would even resort to physical violence. He never understood why. He was being bullied for no reason, so of course he fought back. Well, the truth was he couldn't win. Was it such a crime to hang out with a few pretty girls from class? Did she have to be so dramatic? He hung up and sent her his location. Patience is a virtue. If Chloe was back early, so be it. As long as the main plot stayed on track, he didn't care. In fact, her antagonistic attitude was strangely reassuring. All the other female leads had gone crazy. At least his sister was still normal. If she wasn't, Asher might have had to prove the Tao by killing his sister, a trope where one kills a loved one for power. He'd just activate his martial arts and let her wail on him until she collapsed from exhaustion. On the other side of the airport, Chloe Vance looked at the location pin Asher had sent her. A beautiful, yet pained, smile graced her lips. She was dressed in a sleek, white jumpsuit that hugged her petite and delicate frame. Her face was small and lovely, like a porcelain doll, with large, innocent eyes. But don't be fooled by those eyes. And her assets, which were substantial enough to be considered lethal weapons, set her apart from other girls her age. It wasn't just a physical difference. Her mind was in another world entirely. Because she had been reborn. It's real. It's all real. I'll come back. Chloe's heart pounded with excitement. In her previous life, after Asher had died, she had indeed gotten close to Leo Flynn. Not to become one of his women, but with the unwavering determination to kill him. And she had succeeded. It had cost the Zhou family everything they had, but in alliance with the Hayes family, they had managed to kill Leo. Leo's cultivation technique included a heaven-defying ability to rapidly heal, but it left behind severe internal damage. The first time they tried to kill him, he had unfortunately escaped. The second time, his healing ability activated, and he came back from the dead. They had forgotten to finish the job, or rather, they had never anticipated it was possible. The final time, she vividly remembered plunging a dagger coated in a deadly poison into Leo's chest herself. She had watched him die before her very eyes, his life force slowly fading. Then, she had taken his head to Asher's grave as an offering. That final battle had involved not just the Zhou and Hayes families, but also the Yangs and another powerful clan. After Asher's death, Leo, unwilling to share the spoils of the Vance fortune, had revealed his true, wolfish ambitions. This had united the other families against him. That final, brutal conflict had wiped out the Dragon's Den and all of New York's great families. With her life's purpose fulfilled, Chloe had drifted through her days in a haze of alcohol. Lawrence and Eleanor, unable to bear seeing their daughter in such a state, had taken her abroad. It was from them that she learned the truth. Her brother had never been a worthless playboy. The detailed business plans, the sharp, insightful predictions of future market trends. Could a worthless person have produced those? It was no exaggeration to say that with those plans, even an idiot could have built a small empire. The pain in Chloe's heart intensified. She secretly turned to drugs to numb herself, a fact her parents never discovered. Her addiction grew worse, and to hide it from them, she decided to move out on her own. It was during that time that she overheard Lawrence and Eleanor talking and learned that she was not their biological daughter. Suddenly, she saw a new reason to live. The process of getting clean was agonizing, but she endured it with sheer force of will. Through subtle questions and her own investigation, she finally uncovered the truth. She was the daughter of a pair of bodyguards who had worked for the Vance family. Both she and Asher had been born in the same hospital. The security back then wasn't great. An enemy from the Vance's business dealings had sent assassins after Lawrence and Eleanor. Chloe's biological parents had shielded Lawrence, Eleanor, and their newborn son, taking dozens of bullets for them. Out of gratitude, Lawrence had raised Chloe as his own daughter. Eleanor had done the same. Only a handful of people, they themselves and a few high-level hospital staff, knew the truth. To the outside world, Eleanor had given birth to fraternal twins. When Chloe understood everything, she cried until she had no tears left. She returned to the States, put on a white wedding dress, placed a diamond ring on her finger, and went to Asher's grave. There she slit her wrists. If they couldn't be together in life, at least they could be together in death. The white dress was stained crimson with her blood. In her final moments, there was no pain on her face, only joy. Now, she could finally be with her brother without shame. They weren't related by blood. They didn't have to care about the judgment of the world. Before she died, Chloe had arranged everything. The overseas businesses built on Asher's plans were thriving. Lawrence and Eleanor would be able to live out their golden years in comfort, with more than enough to spare. I have returned. For those who cannot, a stunning smile spread across Chloe's face. In this life, Scarlett Joe, Serafina Hayes, Jessica Young, Kate Young, and all you other sluts whose names I can't be bothered to remember. What have you got to fight me with? And you, Leo Flynn. The pain my brother suffered, the pain I suffered, the suffering our family endured. I will make you pay for it in blood. The memories of her past life had flooded back to her a few days ago. It had taken her a while to process everything. Then, she had immediately withdrawn from school and booked a flight home. She had to come back for the world that still existed. Hi, excuse me. You're Asher Vance, right? The national husband? A group of young Korean women crowded around him, their Mandarin slightly accented. Asher was baffled. He was famous overseas? He had fans? He smiled. That's me. Wow, it's really him. I can't believe we met him in person. This is amazing, one of the girls squealed, jumping up and down. The other two were equally thrilled. The United States, one of the most powerful countries in the world. And he was the son of a New York City tycoon. If they could latch onto him, not even as his main girl, but as his sixth, seventh, eighth, or ninth, they would be ecstatic. He had more money than they could ever spend. My name is Jong-Ah Lee, said the girl whose English was slightly better than her friend's. She extended a delicate, pale hand. Asher suspected the dam system had secretly boosted his charisma stat. He'd been drowning in romantic attention ever since he was reborn. Another one who wanted to buy him dinner. Seriously, have some shame. But he couldn't really blame the system. In his previous life, aside from following the plot, he had mostly been a homebody, going for drives or boat trips alone to deserted places. If he had gone to places with more women, given his looks and fame, there would have been a line of vixens waiting to ask him out. That hand looks so soft. It's just a friendly international greeting. Asher made an excuse for himself and reached out. Hello, Jong-Ah. It's a pleasure to meet you. Asher. Who am I? Where am I? What the hell am I doing? His hand was left hanging in midair. Because the hand that had grasped Jong-Ah's was not his, but a smaller, yet surprisingly strong one. Jong-Ah stared, first at the small hand holding hers, then at its owner. Her good mood evaporated. The person she wanted to shake hands with was Asher. Looking at the girls. Formidable assets. Jong-Ah, who was an A-cup, felt a pang of inadequacy. She instinctively saw this girl as a rival. Survival of the fittest. Hey, I'm not bad-looking either, okay? And I'm all natural. No plastic surgery. Jong-ah forced a smile. And what's your name? Still not leaving? Interesting. Chloe's lips, painted a daring shade of pink, curved into a sweet, harmless-looking smile. Do you really want to know? A sudden chill ran down Jong-ah's spine. One of her friends, oblivious to the tension, saw how cute Chloe was and instinctively reached out to pat her on the head. In a flash, Chloe grabbed the descending hand. In one fluid motion, she twisted, using her hips for leverage, and executed a perfect shoulder throw, slamming the Korean girl onto the hard floor. The girl landed with a painful thud. Ah, she cried out in pain. Asher was speechless. Don't you know the proverbs? You can't touch a tiger's butt, and you can't touch Chloe's head. Didn't you do your homework before coming here? He felt no sympathy for the girl. He had made that mistake once as a kid. While Chloe was sleeping, he had mischievously ruffled her hair, partly for revenge and partly to see if it would create static electricity. Well, he didn't see any static, but he certainly got a beating. Jong-ah rushed to her friend's side. What's wrong with you people? Why did you hit her? She yelled, incensed. The commotion drew a crowd of onlookers. What happened? I think that girl just assaulted someone. Whoa, damn. She's, scary. Where's security? Isn't anyone going to do anything? In no time, several uniformed security guards arrived. Jong-ah angrily explained. I thought Americans were supposed to be polite. My friend just wanted to pat her head as a friendly gesture. She didn't have to accept, but she had no right to attack her. The security guards listened, trying to understand the situation. The three Korean girls did most of the talking. This was an international terminal, and staff often showed a certain deference to foreign travelers. From their perspective, it seemed Chloe had overreacted. If you don't want to be touched, you say so. Escalating to physical violence was unacceptable, regardless of the reason. The crowd started murmuring, pointing at Chloe. Most of the people here were foreigners, and many of them carried an innate sense of superiority, as if they were gods just for being in America. The security guards started to approach Chloe, intending to lecture her. She stood there with a cold expression, ignoring the world around her. The whispers and judgments of others meant nothing to her. The trials of her past life had forged her will into something unbreakable. Otherwise, she never could have killed Leo Flynn, a man blessed with the protagonist's luck. Are you kidding me? Asher thought. Even if his little sister was one of the heroines, a future key ally for the protagonist, blood was thicker than water. He wasn't about to let anyone lecture her. You all heard her. Asher stepped forward, positioning himself in front of Chloe. That girl tried to touch my sister's head first, without her consent. Isn't that considered harassment? He just wanted to get his little she-devil home and be done with it so he could go have some fun. Wait, is that Mr. Vance? One of the guards recognized him. At Asher's prompting, some of the American passengers also realized who Chloe was. Oh my God, that Korean girl got what she deserved. Who touches the head of a Vance without permission? Does she have a death wish? Dude, who is that? It's normal if you don't recognize her. That's Asher Vance's sister, Chloe. She rarely makes public appearances. Heh, and these girls think they have a point? Who likes being touched by a stranger? And they have the nerve to call it a friendly gesture. Why don't you let me pat your ass as a friendly gesture? Dude, you're a legend. He's got a point. The American passengers were surprisingly united, turning the tables on the three Korean girls. Other foreign travelers, hearing Asher's explanation, also agreed. In some parts of Europe, such an act was a criminal offense that could land you in jail. The tide of public opinion had turned. The security guards looked mortified. They had almost blamed the wrong person. They hurried over to apologize to Chloe. Miss Vance, we are so sorry. We completely misunderstood the situation. It was these students' fault, not yours. How would you like to handle this? Do you need us to call the police? Their faces were serious. This was no joke. If the three girls had malicious intent, this could be more than just harassment. Chloe, snapping out of a daze, waved her hand dismissively. That won't be necessary. She remembered when she was very young, Lawrence had taken them to visit a friend at a private estate. Chloe, a natural athlete, even as a child, had been running around playfully, leaving her nannies far behind. Eventually, she ran out of energy and got lost in the vast estate. For the first time, she felt real fear. Then she encountered a Doberman that was off its leash. She ran for her life, but she was exhausted and fell. Just as she felt completely helpless, a little boy appeared. He looked relieved to find her. Without a second's hesitation, he threw himself in front of her, using his small body to shield her from the charging dog. Even as the Doberman bit him, drawing blood, Asher didn't back down. Finally, the adults arrived and shot the dog on the spot. In Chloe's memory, at that moment, Asher had been bathed in a brilliant, captivating light. It was from that day on that she had fallen deeply in love with him. This was the catalyst that would eventually lead to a major deviation from the novel's original plot. There were many other small, seemingly insignificant things that young Asher had done, creating a butterfly effect. But in Asher's memory, the scene was a little different. Holy crap, I finally found you. You're a future heroine, a crucial side character who's supposed to help the protagonist crush me. If you disappear, how am I supposed to get home? Crap, stupid dog, don't bite her. If you're gonna bite someone, bite me. Asher's unwavering desire to go home had triumphed over all physical pain. Before he passed out, he had muttered, "Damn protagonist. The plot hasn't even started, and I'm already serving my face up on a platter for you to slap. I'm so pathetic." Later, Lawrence had hired the best doctors from around the world to treat Asher's injuries. Thanks to the Vance family's immense power and wealth, though his wounds were severe, he had healed without a single scar. Asher had no idea that his one impulsive action had made Chloe fall completely in love with him. But even if he had known, he still would have saved her. Going home was one thing. Saving a life was another. Chloe sniffled, thinking to herself, he's just like he used to be, unchanged. My brother is such a gentle person. The three Korean girls scurried away. Asher glanced at Chloe's suitcase and said flatly, "You barely have any luggage. Why did you ask me to bring the Range Rover?" Chloe didn't answer. First, she leaned in close to Asher, her cute nose sniffing the air. Good, no perfume from those Korean girls. And no scent from any other women. He's clean. What are you doing? Asher asked, bewildered. Chloe tossed her small, pink suitcase to him. I don't want to sit in your passenger seat. Is that a problem? Asher instinctively caught the suitcase. It looked vaguely familiar. Wasn't this the cheap suitcase he had gotten for her birthday through some viral social media campaign, asking his followers to help him get a discount? His original intention had been to annoy her. Who would have thought it would become a massive trend, with celebrities and influencers promoting it, turning it into the must-have luggage of the season? The manufacturer, quick to capitalize on the hype, had used the slogan, "If it's good enough for the nation's husband, it's good enough for us." At the time, Chloe hadn't gotten angry. She had quietly accepted the gift, which had left Asher confused. Was she faking it? But after a few tense days, he realized she wasn't. She hadn't beaten him up. He had soon forgotten about the whole thing. Who said I wanted you in my passenger seat? Sit there or don't, I don't care, Asher shot back. Chloe, walking ahead of him, smiled, a pair of playful dimples appearing on her cheeks. Silly boy, I was just kidding. In the previous life, Asher had brought the Range Rover, which had infuriated her. They had been in the middle of a Cold War, so she had reluctantly sat in the back. The reason for their fight was simple. When she hit puberty, Chloe realized her love for Asher had become an obsession. To avoid gossip and the judgment of others, she had resorted to pushing him away. Because she was afraid she wouldn't be able to control herself. As Chloe reveled in her happiness, a determined glint appeared in her eyes. Death is never the end. Regret is. In this life, I will have no regrets. A striking lime green McLaren 720S sat at the curb. The base price was around $380,000, but after taxes, custom tires, performance upgrades, insurance, and other miscellaneous fees, the total cost was closer to $750,000. Asher managed to stuff the suitcase into the small luggage compartment. It just barely fit. Put the top up. I don't want people staring at me, Chloe demanded coldly. Outside the airport, the curb was swarming with people and a long line of taxis and Ubers. Asher's supercar stood out like a sore thumb, the obnoxious green color making it impossible to ignore. He knew Chloe was shy. He had deliberately chosen this car to annoy her. If she was going to insist he pick her up, then annoying her a little was fair game, right? Yeah. If you don't like it, you don't have to get in. He slid into the driver's seat. Chloe secretly smiled. My brother is so easy to fool. He fell for her again. She savored the envious looks from the people around them, faintly hearing comments like, "The girl in the passenger seat of a supercar is never a disappointment," and "I wish I were her." She was bursting with joy. Chloe opened the passenger door, lifted a pale, slender leg into the car, and then, with a slight push, settled into the leather seat. She didn't close the door right away. Her large, bright eyes scanned the interior, searching for any telltale signs of other women. An earring, a tube of lipstick, anything. Asher was a notorious playboy, after all. He had only become more serious after falling for Serafina Hayes. But every coin has two sides. At least this way, he wasn't messing around with random women anymore. Still, given his track record, Chloe had to be vigilant. What are you doing? Close the door, Asher said. After confirming the car was clean and free of any foreign scents, Chloe finally shut the door. She pouted, feigning dissatisfaction. Couldn't you have been more considerate? This car is so small. It's not comfortable. Asher shrugged, a teasing glint in his eyes. I'm not a considerate guy, but I'm a car guy. When I bought it, I told the dealership specifically, I won't buy any car that doesn't get my adrenaline pumping. Chloe's eyes widened, a blush spreading across her cheeks. It was half embarrassment, half anger. Embarrassed that Asher would make such a suggestive joke in front of her, and angry that he had been with so many other women. Countless flings, a mountain of romantic debts, endless scandals. Sometimes she got so mad she considered just giving up on him and taking him out herself. If I can't have him, no one can. But she had always held back. He could be salvaged. Are you mad? Are you? You little brat, trying to lecture your older brother. Have you no respect for your elders? Ding. Congratulations, host. Personal stamina +2. Huh, what was that? Asher thought, confused. The system seemed to have gone rogue lately. It wouldn't respond when he called it, but it kept giving him these bizarre rewards. All he wanted was a pill that would cure the female leads of their insanity. Chloe? Little boy, do you have a lot of questions? Is that my brother's voice? Chloe was bewildered. She hadn't seen his lips move, but she was absolutely certain that the voice she heard was his. How strange. Before she could dwell on it, the voice sounded again. What's her deal? Did she go overseas and forget how to buckle a seatbelt? Asher frowned and leaned over toward Chloe. Thump, thump. Instantly, Chloe's heart felt like it was about to leap out of her chest. Asher's unique scent filled the small space, and her head felt dizzy. She knew what he was about to do, but her heart raced anyway. Asher reached for the seatbelt, intending to buckle it for her. But as he got closer, he froze. It was awkward. A look of embarrassment crossed his face. Crap, I forgot how well endowed she is. I can't help her with this. Fighting back his own awkwardness, he snapped at her. What are you staring at? You're a grown woman. Put on your own seatbelt. After a moment of shock, Chloe's mind finally pieced together what was happening. First, she had been reborn. Second, for some unknown reason, she could hear Asher's thoughts. The first part alone was enough to give her a massive advantage, and she was incredibly grateful for it. But now she had both. With this kind of power, even a pig could fly. Chloe felt like the heavens were smiling down on her. You do it for me, she said, suppressing the urge to burst out laughing, instead adopting a bratty, demanding tone. Asher's eye twitched. Boundaries. Don't you know what boundaries are? You're one of the heroines of this book. If I touch you, I'm asking for a death sentence. I mean, I do want to die quickly, but the plot isn't finished yet. You're supposed to be with the protagonist, Leo Flynn, in the future. You're a special snowflake. I just want to enjoy my life as a useless rich kid for a little longer, thanks. Chloe was utterly floored. Her shock turned to excitement, which then circled back to shock. It was more thrilling than any roller coaster. So, my brother has been reborn too? Then what's the point of all this acting? At that moment, she had so much she wanted to tell him, so much pain to unload. Tears welled up in her large, innocent eyes, a thick mist forming before they spilled over, streaming down her cheeks. Brother, you knew all along, didn't you? Chloe sobbed, dissolving into a mess of tears, as vulnerable as a kitten caught in the rain. Asher's jaw dropped. He stared at her dumbfounded. Chloe, her nose red, stared back at him. For a long moment, they looked at each other in silence. The next second, Chloe tried to scream out the words, I've been reborn, but to her astonishment, no sound came out. Her lips trembled, but the words were trapped inside. It was impossible for anyone to read her lips. This was the first time Chloe had ever cried in front of him. That was why Asher was so stunned. He had no idea what idiot had managed to make her this upset. If the heroine was crying, did a background character like him stand a chance? He was probably about to get his ticket punched and be written out of the story for good. Asher silently cursed his fate and quickly raised the convertible top. He didn't want anyone to see Chloe in such a vulnerable state. A crowd of onlookers had already gathered, some even taking out their phones to record. He couldn't exactly go around snatching their phones and deleting the footage. Even if he stopped one person from chasing Cloud, 1,000 more would take their place. And you, dude, seriously? Could you at least turn off the flash? He gave up on complaining and fumbled in the glove compartment for a pack of wet wipes. Seeing Chloe's tears still flowing, he felt utterly helpless. He didn't know how to comfort her. He was an expert at pissing her off, but this was beyond him. You're useless, he said, forcing himself to speak. You go abroad and let someone bully you? Who is it? Tell me, and I'll make that bastard disappear. He was sure she must have suffered terribly overseas to be crying like this. What's the big deal? If you don't want to see me, you could have just moved to another city. Go to the capital. It's not like the family can't afford it. And if money's the issue, I'll stop being lazy. I'll invest in you. Buffed. Chloe burst out laughing through her tears, a bubble of snot forming at her nose. Smack! She slapped him across the cheek, though not with much force. Turn your head. Don't look. And give me the wipes. Asher's mouth twitched. You cried, so you're the boss. Getting hit by a heroine wasn't the end of the world. He still had a future slap from Serafina to look forward to. His life was so hard. As Chloe Vance wiped away her tears, the roar of the sports car's engine filled the air with a captivating growl. Asher gunned it, pulling away from the curb. He had no choice. The crowd of onlookers was growing, and someone had already recognized him. Sticking around would only turn this drama into a full-blown media circus. On the drive, Asher's mind raced, but he couldn't for the life of him figure out who had the power to make his impenetrable little sister break down in tears. For her part, with the tears finally flowing, a weight lifted from Chloe's chest. The grievances, the pain, the life-and-death goodbyes of her previous life seemed to dissolve in that moment. The car was silent. Neither sibling spoke. Asher didn't even bother her about the seatbelt anymore. Let the ticket come. He knew Chloe despised him. Getting any closer would only earn him more of her disgust. Chloe's internal thought, that's not true. I don't. Ash, don't think that. They spent over an hour on the expressway, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, they pulled up to the gates of their home. Miss Chloe, welcome back. It's been so long. You've gotten even more beautiful. Maria, one of the family's housekeepers, greeted them at the door. Seeing the familiar surroundings, a genuine, sweet smile finally bloomed on Chloe's face. It has been a long time, hasn't it? She said, her voice thick with emotion. Maria paused, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Chloe seemed different. Perhaps her time abroad had matured her. After a brief exchange, Chloe walked inside. Your luggage. You're getting it yourself. Asher called out, annoyed, as he dragged the small suitcase behind him. He needed to get back to the office so he could properly slack off. So she cried, big deal. Did she think a few tears gave her the right to boss her older brother around? Don't get cocky, you little brat. In the end, Asher let out a deep, defeated sigh. Okay, fine, crying's a superpower. God knows I feel like crying sometimes. Just as he was about to enter the mansion, Maria called his name. What is it, Maria? Asher asked, surprised. Maria glanced inside, making sure no one was listening before lowering her voice. Sir, Mr. and Mrs. Vance are back. Asher shrugged. So? They live here. Mr. Vance is furious, she whispered urgently. He said he's going to make you pay the second you walk through that door. Asher froze. What the hell? Who did I piss off now? This is insane. He looked down at the suitcase in his hand. Maria, I have a small favor to ask. You see this suitcase? Oh dear, I think I hear the dryer buzzing. Maria said, suddenly very busy, and scurried back inside, leaving Asher alone to twist in the wind. A cold breeze snapped him out of his stupor. Damn it, nice guys finish last, he muttered, trying to psych himself up. From this moment on, I'm a bad guy. He swallowed hard, gripped the handle of the suitcase, and steeled himself to walk inside. He just hoped his Iron Mantle training was enough to withstand his old man's thick leather belt. Forget the physical beating, it was the psychological warfare he really dreaded. Inside the spacious living room, Eleanor Vance's voice, laced with mock exasperation and boundless affection, drifted out. It's only been a few years, sweetie. We just video chatted a few days ago. You're going to squeeze the life out of me. To be fair, the main reason Eleanor wanted Chloe to let go was that her daughter was surprisingly well endowed. The hug was making it a little hard to breathe. Mom, online and in person are two completely different things, you know? Chloe's voice was slightly choked with emotion. Eleanor's eyes twinkled. An idea struck her. She gently patted Chloe's shoulder. Did someone bully you while you were abroad? You tell me who it was, and I'll handle them. That's right. If someone gave you trouble, you just say the word. Lawrence Vance boomed from the central sofa. His face was a thundercloud, but the concern in his voice was just as potent as his wife's. Chloe shook her head so fast her hair flew, a dazzling smile on her face. Of course not. Dad, Mom, you know how well I can handle myself. Who would dare bully me? Lawrence's frown deepened. He crossed his arms, his anger simmering. Was it that little bastard Asher? Did he bully his own sister? No, it wasn't. Chloe started to say, but another voice, one on the verge of tears, beat her to it. Dad, can't we just talk things out like reasonable adults? Lawrence craned his neck to see Asher standing nervously by the entrance. In a flash, he was on his feet, rolling up his sleeves and stalking toward his son. Asher instinctively took a step back. Hey, let's be rational here. You stay right there, you little punk. Lawrence roared. There was no escaping it. Asher took a few steps toward the door before resigning himself to his fate and walking back. $100,000 a month really wasn't enough to live on. It would be better if his dad just gave him some startup capital and kicked him out. Then he could find a nice, quiet place and use the money to achieve his life's ultimate goal, doing absolutely nothing. Dad, everything can be solved through reason. Reason, huh? Lawrence reached down and unbuckled his belt. He put on a little weight in his middle age, so there was no danger of his pants falling down. Asher's eye twitched. This is what you call reason? He nodded awkwardly. All right, let's talk reason, Lawrence said, his voice dangerously low. I told you to pick up Chloe. Why don't you explain to me what the hell you did? Asher looked genuinely confused. I didn't do anything. Look, she's fine, isn't she? No broken arms or legs. Crack. Lawrence snapped the thick leather belt against the marble floor, the sound echoing through the room. It wasn't a luxury brand. It was a heavy-duty, no-nonsense strip of hide. Back in middle school, Asher, flush with academic success and basketball victories, had managed to simultaneously date 6 different girls. The Vance family wasn't the powerhouse it was today, but those girls came from decent families. Chloe, furious, had snitched on him to their father. At the time, Asher hadn't thought much of it. On one hand, he was trying to ruin his reputation. What harm could kid do? On the other, juggling 6 girlfriends without any of them finding out was a monumental challenge. And he had succeeded. That time, Lawrence had used a fancy designer belt to punish him. It had been embarrassing when the flimsy thing broke halfway through. On a friend's recommendation, he'd switched to a sturdy, American-made brand. It was brutally effective. When the truth came out, the 6 girls were furious. Some wanted to continue, others left immediately. From that day on, Asher's reputation as a scumbag was cemented. A story full of blood and tears. Wipe that look off your face and get serious. Lawrence barked. Ahem. Dad, let's be straight with each other, Asher said, trying a different tack. If you're going to accuse me of a crime, you need to present some evidence, right? Evidence? You want evidence? Lawrence scoffed. He unlocked his phone, pulled up TikTok, and shoved it in Asher's face. This is your evidence. Asher nervously took the phone. It was a 20-second clip. In the video, Chloe said something to him, and then her face crumpled as tears streamed down her cheeks. Asher just stood there, looking completely stunned and bewildered. What do you have to say for yourself now? Lawrence sneered. Gulp. Asher swallowed hard, his voice trembling slightly. I do. Spit out. Asher's voice dropped to a meek whisper. Until my lawyer arrives, I have the right to remain silent. You insolent brat. Lawrence roared, his whole body shaking with rage. The leather belt in his hand whistled through the air, about to descend on Asher. Dad, don't be angry. It wasn't Asher who made me cry, Chloe exclaimed, rushing forward. Lawrence's arm froze mid-swing. He looked down at his daughter, who had run over to shield Asher, then back at Asher's completely innocent expression. Well, this is... Lawrence was at a loss for words. Asher, meanwhile, was utterly baffled. Whoa, Chloe, what's with the personality transplant? Don't you usually enjoy watching the old man whip me? My sister has definitely lost her mind. Something's not right here. But fine, I guess you have a conscience after all. At least my turn as an Uber driver wasn't a total waste. Chloe's eye twitched. Uber driver? Dad, on second thought, I think you should probably hit him just once, she said suddenly. Both father and son stared at her, dumbfounded. 1 second she's protecting him, the next she's throwing him to the wolves. Lawrence was now completely unsure of what to do. His precious daughter's word was law. Dad, I've got stuff to do at the office. I'm heading out. Seizing the moment, Asher bolted out of the room. He was tough and could take a beating, but he wasn't a masochist. He used the urgent business escape route. You get back here, you little punk, Lawrence yelled, chasing after him with the belt. But he was no match for Asher's speed. Chloe couldn't help but giggle, a flicker of steely resolve in her eyes. In this life, no matter what, I won't let Asher die. Though they hadn't spoken in the car, she had heard so much from his inner thoughts. Even the absurd fact that this was a novel world. She accepted it all in a heartbeat. The things she had already experienced were as crazy as any story. In my last life, I was lucky enough to learn an esoteric martial art from my mentor, Anna, but I was past the optimal age for training. This time, I'll start by hiring some top-tier fighters. Even if they don't know ancient techniques, I'll use sheer numbers to make Leo Flynn suffer. Still working as a security guard at the Hayes Corporation. Is he? Just you wait. A murderous glint flashed in Chloe's eyes. After chatting a little longer with her parents, she began to set her plan for revenge in motion. Whatever reason Asher had for wanting to follow the plot, she would absolutely not let him have his way. Vance Corporation, it was almost noon when Asher, defying the stream of employees leaving for lunch, resolutely returned to the office. He was going to be a model general manager. I don't care who comes looking for me today. Even if it's Jesus Christ himself, I'm going to chill. I have spoken, Asher declared to the empty room before collapsing onto the massive, custom-made sofa, looking like a philosopher who had achieved enlightenment. The plot can go to hell. I'm tired. Let the world burn. Knock, knock, knock. A soft rapping came from the door. Mr. Vance, are you in there? Nope, Asher grumbled. The female secretary on the other side of the door didn't leave, waiting patiently. Asher sighed, his voice lazy. Come in, it's not locked. Yes, sir. A beautiful woman walked in. Jasmine, aren't you my secretary? Asher complained. Shouldn't you be helping me out when the company has problems? Jasmine Jiang, 26, perpetually single, and ranked last on the unofficial Vance Corp Top 10 Beauties list. It wasn't that she was unattractive. The list was compiled from an internal employee survey, not by Asher. In terms of sheer looks and figure, she could easily rival the woman ranked number 1, Zoe Zhou. But as Asher's personal secretary, Jasmine was usually busy arranging his schedule, compiling reports, and verifying contracts. Most junior employees rarely saw her, hence the low score. As for Zoe and the others, even if you couldn't see them during work hours, you could always camp out by the main entrance in the morning to catch a glimpse. Jasmine was different. Asher had given her a lot of privileges. Though just a secretary, she enjoyed executive-level perks, including access to the VIP elevator. Her competence matched her beauty. Most of the time, Asher was a perfectly hands-off boss because of her. Jasmine smiled and held up her hands in a gesture of surrender. I'm afraid I can't help you with this particular problem, Mr. Vance, she said playfully. From his reclined position, Asher's gaze fell upon a pair of long, shapely legs wrapped in black stockings. Jasmine's cheeks flushed slightly, but a sexy curve played on her lips. She let him look, even teasing him. Mr. Vance, where are your eyes wandering? Asher didn't look away, instead asking with mock seriousness, isn't it a secretary's duty to assist the general manager when he's busy? Having worked with Asher for a long time, Jasmine knew his personality. He looked at her with appreciation, but there was never any ill intent. He'd never once made an inappropriate move. Jasmine thought for a moment. Yes, it is. Asher sat up. He glanced at her chest. White blouse. Never mind. He looked back at her face. All right, you admit it. When the boss is busy, the secretary works. Jasmine's beautiful eyes were filled with confusion. Asher leaned closer, a mischievous glint in his eye. So, what about when he's not busy? Jasmine blinked. When the secretary isn't busy, what does she do? A moment later, a crimson blush crept up her fair cheeks. She lifted a delicate hand and gave his chest a light, playful tap. Her voice was a sultry whisper. Oh, Mr. Vance, you're terrible. Huh, serves you right for teasing me. Asher laughed. You don't like it? When Jasmine laughed, she swayed slightly. I love it, she replied without thinking. Asher was from a prestigious family, funny, and completely unpretentious. She wouldn't mind an office romance, but whether he would give her the chance was another question entirely. Hiss. Asher mentally took a sharp breath and changed the subject. All right, what's so important that I have to handle it personally? What document is it? Jasmine shot him a look of mock exasperation. Today is November 23 RD. It's Ms. Hayes' birthday. Didn't you tell me to remind you so you wouldn't forget? What the? Something this important, and you're only telling me now? Asher snapped back to reality. Picking up Chloe had completely wiped it from his mind. Serafina Hayes' birthday. How could that not be important? A brand new face-slapping plot was about to begin. Asher's heart pounded with excitement. Jasmine looked at him as if he were a lost cause. Sometimes she really couldn't understand what was so special about Serafina Hayes that had her boss so utterly captivated. Sigh, am I not seductive enough? Or are his standards just too high? Probably the latter. Hayes Corporation Serafina Hayes rubbed her temples, trying to soothe the throbbing headache as she left her CEO office. In the past few days, since taking on the Apex Properties mess, the corporation had been in turmoil. The other shareholders were blaming the Hayes family for everything. Those old sharks were always first in line when it came to divvying up profits, but the moment there was a loss, they'd find any excuse to pass the buck. Unfortunately, Harrison Hayes had signed the Apex deal without calling a board meeting, giving them the perfect excuse. He had no choice but to swallow his pride and take the hit. The Hayes Corporation stock had plummeted, dashing any hopes of overtaking the Zhou family for the number 2 spot among the city's elite. Inevitably, Seraphina's thoughts drifted to Asher Vance's face, that insufferable, fawning expression he always wore. On the surface, he was worshipping her, but she knew that in his mind, he was tearing her down, calling her worthless. Every time she remembered, a fresh wave of anger washed over her. Speaking of which, why hasn't that idiot been around lately? Seraphina muttered to herself with a slight frown as she stepped out of the Hayes building. There was no way she would ever seek him out. He had to come to her. And this time, she wouldn't let him off so easily. He had tormented her. Now, it was her turn to return the favor. Vroom, speak of the devil. A flashy, mint green McLaren 720S screeched to a halt in front of her. Seraphina froze. In the driver's seat, Asher let out a huge sigh of relief. Phew, made it just in time. With a heart pounding with excitement, he pushed the butterfly door open with a trembling hand and stepped out. The recent charisma boost from the system had paid off. Asher was already handsome, but now he looked like he'd undergone a qualitative leap. Damn, that's Asher Vance. A different supercar every day. I'm so jealous. Is he trying to win over Ms. Hayes again? If I were her, I'd have said yes ages ago. A reformed playboy is worth more than gold. Please, Liz. You're just after the Vance family fortune. I am not. A guy who looks like Mr. Vance? I'd pay him to date me. Although the lunch rush had passed, there were still plenty of Hayes employees milling about, on their way to grab a bite. A glimmer of excitement flashed in Seraphina's eyes. The opportunity for revenge had arrived. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. What do you think I'm doing? I'm here to deliver a fresh new opportunity for you and your man to slap my face. I missed you, of course, Asher said, his voice dripping with affection. He felt his acting skills had reached a whole new level. His expression, his posture, his tone, all perfectly calibrated. And it wasn't just him being conceited. Cheers and excited squeals erupted from the female onlookers. Huh, how boring, Seraphina sneered, turning to walk toward the parking garage. Playing hard to get, she thought. Thanks to his inner monologue, she had him right where she wanted him. She knew that even if she did nothing, Asher would have to stop her to fulfill the plot's requirements. And just as she expected, in the next moment, Asher spoke. Ahem. Seraphina, today is an important day, he said quickly. It might be an important day for you, but it's not for me. Asher's mouth twitched. He decided to cut the crap. It's your birthday. Seraphina's body went rigid. He's right. It was surprisingly easy to find out the birthdays of New York's rich and famous. A quick Google search was all it took to pull up their public profiles. Of course, that was a luxury reserved for the well-known. Ordinary people didn't have that. She'd been so buried in work lately she'd completely forgotten her own birthday. All right, so what? Asher glanced around nervously, but he didn't see Leo Flynn anywhere. His eyelid twitched. In the original plot, he was supposed to show up, invite her to lunch and dinner, holding a massive bouquet of red roses and a diamond ring, ready to propose again. The novel's Asher had prepared for this proposal for ages. The roses were a special variety imported from abroad, 1,000 times more beautiful than regular ones. Each stem cost a fortune, and the 999 rose bouquet was worth millions. The ring was a top-tier, $50 million diamond. In his previous life, Asher had followed the script, but with a twist. The expensive roses were replaced with cheap fake ones, just 33 of them. The $50 million ring was swapped for a plastic one he'd bought online for a few bucks. He'd spent a lot of effort on the box, though, making it look incredibly high-end. His reasoning was simple, saving money. In the book, the original sycophant Asher's relentless pursuit infuriated Seraphina. She threw the flowers on the ground and tossed the ring in the trash. That made Asher angry, and he tried to force himself on her. Then, the protagonist, Leo Flynn, made his grand entrance. He played the hero, saved Seraphina, and smashed Asher's car. Asher, without his bodyguards and no match for Leo, got beaten to a pulp, deepening the hatred between them. Watching Leo lead Seraphina away by the hand was the moment the original Asher began his descent into darkness. The final nail in the coffin was when Seraphina later asked Leo to pretend to be her boyfriend. Back in reality, Asher swallowed hard. With no protagonist in sight, he had to push forward. So I wanted to take you out to eat. Damn it, am I too late? Did the Dragon King already go get lunch? Did he become the Dragon of Lunch? God of War, do you even want your woman anymore? If you don't want her, I sure as hell don't either. Stay calm, stay calm. The hero always makes his entrance at the last possible second. Asher comforted himself, feeling a little better. Just then, Seraphina held out a delicate, beautiful hand. You know it's my birthday, so where's my gift? Asher. What gift? The gift of my foot up your. I was in such a rush, I didn't bring anything. Seeing Asher's mortified expression, Serafina couldn't help but laugh internally. Serves you right. This is for teaming up with Scarlet Joe to torment me. Now it's my turn. Asher scratched his head awkwardly, improvising. The flowers are at the restaurant. I wanted to give you a romantic surprise later. This was absurd. Of all the things he had planned for, he never imagined Serafina would suddenly go off script and demand a gift. Serafina's stunning almond-shaped eyes blinked, and she pressed on. I don't want it later. I want it now. Asher was panicking. This woman wasn't playing by the rules. What was wrong with her? You're asking me for a gift. I should be asking you for one. He was in an incredibly awkward position. In his past life, he'd at least budgeted $100 for a gift. This time, he'd come completely empty-handed. Just as Asher was trying to figure out how to placate this idiot woman, a confident voice cut through the air. Happy birthday, Ms. Hayes. This is for you. He was here. He was finally here. He walked in with all his arrogant, untamable swagger. Leo Flynn was holding a bouquet of 99 roses, each stem worth $25. He'd tried to haggle with the florist, who had promptly thrown him out of the shop. If the roses hadn't been a noticeably superior and more beautiful variety, Leo would have been tempted to trash the place. The sudden appearance of Leo Flynn earned him disgusted looks from the onlookers. Who's the security guard? Mr. Vance and Ms. Hayes are having a moment. What's he butting in for? Ah, seriously? A security guard? He needs to learn his place. Whoa, but that guard's got some money. If I'm not mistaken, those roses are from that boutique florist, Elysian Fields. They're like $25 a stem. The guy's loaded. Loaded? More like a poser. That bouquet probably cost him a few months' salary. Seeing Leo, Serafina's brow furrowed slightly. The man who appeared so handsome was, in reality, a hypocrite of the highest order. For days, he had been trying to strike up conversations with her during her commute, and it did nothing but disgust her. Asher's eyes lit up. The protagonist has arrived. The villain's time is up. When the hero comes to New York, the city knows no peace. When a hero comes, I can finally go home. Tears of joy welled up in his eyes. Serafina completely ignored the flowers held out in front of her. Instead, she asked flatly, Leo, what is the meaning of this? Leo had bought the flowers a while ago and had been hiding in the wings, observing. After seeing Asher's humiliating failure, he decided to make his move, showing up this spoiled brat what a real, heartfelt gesture looked like. He was certain Serafina would never accept anything from Asher, and that her demand for a gift was just a way to mess with him. A small smirk played on Leo's lips, but it froze when he saw the look of disdain in Serafina's eyes. He forced a smile that, to anyone else, might have looked normal, but to him, felt strained. Ms. Hayes, I'm grateful for the opportunity you gave me at Hayes Corporation. It's nothing, really. I just happened to hear it was your birthday, so I wanted to give you a small gift. I hope you won't refuse. Leo spoke with absolute confidence. He believed that, given her hatred for Asher, she would undoubtedly accept his roses. Ooh, showing off your love right in front of me. I'm going to make you too sick to your stomachs. Asher walked over to a planter box by the building's entrance, plucked a small, yellow chrysanthemum, and sauntered back. Mimicking Leo's grand gesture, he held out the single flower and declared in an exaggeratedly loud voice, Serafina, this special gift represents my most sincere feelings. I hope you won't refuse it. Haha, the plot is broken, but not completely. See? She has a gift now. A priceless little chrysanthemum. In a minute, you'll reject it. I'll get angry. The protagonist's aura will flare up. He'll smash my car, save the damsel in distress, and whisk you away. Perfect. I'm sorry, you idiot woman. I misjudged you. You really are one of a kind. Beautiful. Asher felt that the plot gods were still on his side. Good fortune doesn't smile on fools, and luckily, he wasn't a fool. His actions felt logical, a natural progression of events. He could hardly wait to see what happened next. Ha! Ridiculous. Leo scoffed, rolling his eyes. Asher was just here to cause trouble. With a clown like him as a foil, his own noble gesture shone even brighter. Mr. Vance, you're hilarious. You can't win our Ms. Hayes over with a test like that. Yeah, the flowers the security guard has might not be expensive for Mr. Vance, but at least he's showing some proper respect. Mr. Vance, have you ever considered a career in comedy? The crowd roared with laughter. Serafina had rejected countless suitors' gifts, but never one this pathetic. Serafina bit her lip, trying to suppress a smile. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. A gentleman's revenge can wait 10 years. A woman's revenge starts at dawn. Under the watchful eyes of dozens of people, She completely ignored the 99 red roses in Leo's hands. The triumphant, confident expression on his face froze, replaced by one of utter disbelief. Seraphina took the single, small chrysanthemum from Asher's hand. Her devastatingly sexy red lips parted slightly. "Thank you." Huh? Asher was 10,000 times more stunned than Leo. The onlookers were dumbstruck. "Whoa, holy crap, am I seeing things?" "Ms. Hayes just accepted Mr. Vance's gift for the first time ever," an employee from HR exclaimed, rubbing his eyes furiously. "Looks like our CEO has finally had a change of heart," another from sales remarked wistfully. The female employees were even more ecstatic than the men. "This has to be the power of love. True love prevails. All of Mr. Vance's hard work has finally paid off. This makes me believe in love again. Long live love. Long live love." A wave of passionate cheers erupted from the crowd. Asher flinched, taking an involuntary step back. That idiot over there shouting. What the hell kind of love is this? This is a train wreck. He felt like he was about to cough up blood. He wasn't the only one suffering. The critical hit Leo took was 1,000,000 times worse. And it wasn't over. Seraphina delivered the finishing blow, aimed primarily at Asher. She twirled the little chrysanthemum in her delicate fingers, lifted it to her nose, and took a deep, theatrical sniff, her face a picture of ecstasy. She raised her voice just enough for everyone to hear. "This flower smells so wonderful. A flower given with such sincere feelings is just different. It can't be compared to those vulgar, cheap roses that can be bought with money. I love it so much. Smash it. Destroy it." "Scarlet Joe, you want Asher to follow the plot? You wanted to play along with you, two scumbags? Let me tell you, syllable by syllable. Impossible. Seraphina screamed internally. A thunderclap seemed to go off in Leo's head. Was this the same Ice Queen he admired? How did she get mixed up with this degenerate playboy? Asher was even more bewildered. Seraphina's words were so cringeworthy, so embarrassing. He wished the ground would open up and swallow him whole. Associating with this woman was clearly affecting his sanity. But still wasn't over. Seraphina took his hand. Her touch sent a jolt of discomfort through her, but when she heard the nearly hysterical screaming inside Asher's head, a smile that could kill blossomed on her face. "Heh, my turn to make you squirm." She pulled him toward the flashy green McLaren. "Didn't you say you were taking me to eat? Let's go." Asher moved like a zombie, letting her lead him into the car. "Impossible, it's impossible. That playboy must have used some dirty trick." Leo muttered to himself, throwing his bouquet of roses to the ground. It has to be. At that moment, whatever Seraphina's reasons were for taking Asher's hand, it had fundamentally enraged him. And the consequences of enraging the god of war were severe. Bang! Crunch! A loud, metallic crash snapped Asher back to reality. He saw the enraged Dragon King rip a heavy-duty public trash can from its bolts, drag it over, and start smashing his car with it. The hood, the engine, everything was being crushed. In that instant, Asher saw the light again. The horror, the sheer brilliance of it, sobbed. "You idiot woman, I was wrong about you. Your man still loves you. Look, he's smashing my car for you. He's completely unhinged and doing a great job." Crash! The airbags deployed. With lightning-fast reflexes, Asher shoved Seraphina out of the passenger side door, saving her from a face full of airbag. He, however, wasn't so lucky. The bag slammed into him, making his head rattle. The physical impact did nothing to him, but the violent jolt left him slightly dizzy. Asher gave the protagonist a mental thumbs up. Much more efficient than last time. He really wrecked it this time, even blew the airbags. Impressive. As for helping Seraphina, it was partly instinct and partly because she was the female lead. If she ended up in the hospital, who would he act out the rest of the plot with? Seraphina stumbled out of the car, her head spinning. It had all happened too fast for her to process. She stared blankly at Asher in the car. He had actually been kind enough to help her. In contrast, Leo looked like a rabid beast. He stormed over, shouting at Asher. "You low-life degenerate. You must have used some underhanded method to threaten Ms. Hayes, didn't you?" Asher climbed out of the mangled car. This was a perfect opportunity to accumulate rage points. He put on his best evil villain influenced by the plot's stupidity aura face. "Hiss, I didn't think you'd figure it out so quickly. I even used the high-grade imported stuff. Damn. You even saw through my plan to let Seraphina experience my mighty dragon? Ugh, so gross, let's not add that part." The protagonist bought it. The hatred has been locked in. That's enough, that's enough. Leo's eyes lit up. He took a deep breath and then laughed maniacally. "Ms. Hayes, you see, this guy is no good. If it weren't for me, you would have almost been taken away by him. By him. Smack. A crisp, loud slap echoed in the sudden silence. Leo's voice died in his throat. His hand, which had been reaching out to grab Serafina, froze bizarrely in mid-air. Serafina's voice was ice. Don't touch me. The atmosphere instantly froze. Ouch! That looked like it really hurt, Asher muttered, wincing in sympathy. Serafina hadn't held back at all. A bright red handprint was already forming on Leo's cheek. Damn, you idiot woman, you're a legend. I'm enjoying the show, but why the hell are you slapping your husband? Is there trouble in paradise? Hang in there, Dragon King. It might look like she's hitting you, but she still loves you. It took Leo a moment to recover. Why? He asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Serafina stared him down, enunciating each word. I don't like being touched. Then why were you just holding hands with that playboy? Leo wanted to scream. Asher had no interest in watching their lovers spat. His heart ached as he surveyed his beloved car. The flashy green McLaren 720S was now a heap of scrap metal. Over $1 million gone. Damn it. I thought I could keep costs down this time, but I was too late. Next time there's a car-smashing scene, I'm showing up in a golf cart, he thought. The number of absurd things that happened in this novel was just ridiculous. A god of war gets into a street brawl and doesn't get arrested. He smashes a villain's car, and all the bystanders are struck with plot-induced stupidity, not one of them thinking to call the police. As for the original Asher, he was dumb enough to try and fight Leo himself instead of just dialing 911. What Leo did was a felony, destruction of private property and reckless endangerment. $1 million car was enough to get him 10 years of making license plates. And if Asher sicked the Vance Corporation's legal team on him, Leo would probably be locked up for even longer. Just then, a black Range Rover, big enough to take down a bull, pulled up to the curb, followed by 3 black Escalades. The driver's side door of the Rover opened, and Chloe Vance jumped out. From a distance, she'd seen that Asher was unharmed and let out a sigh of relief. It had only just occurred to her that today was Serafina Hayes' birthday. It was also the day Leo Flynn was supposed to humiliate Asher. In her past life, though she was abroad, she had kept an obsessive watch on everything related to Asher. When she heard he'd been bullied by a security guard, she had wanted to book the first flight back to the States to get revenge. Only she, Chloe Vance, was allowed to bully Asher. Anyone else who tried deserved to die. In the end, she had stopped herself. She knew that if she came back, the feelings she had buried deep inside would erupt, and she wouldn't be able to control them anymore. With thousands of miles between them, Chloe could barely keep it together. Now, seeing her small, delicate frame next to the massive SUV was a comical sight, like a child driving a monster truck. Chloe's appearance drew admiring gazes from the crowd. Her looks and figure were the kind that appealed to everyone. She hurried over to Asher's side. "What are you doing here?" he asked, confused. How did she even know he was here? Chloe ignored him, walking a full circle around him, inspecting him from head to toe. Once she confirmed he wasn't hurt, she finally answered, "I'm here to beat someone up." Beat someone up? Who? Asher was completely lost. A moment later, the doors of the 3 Escalades opened, and more than 20 men in black suits climbed out. They were all built like tanks, towering and broad-shouldered. Among them were a few highly trained martial artists. This was the Vance family's security detail, the whole damn team. Asher jumped back, startled. "Holy crap, Chloe. It's not your turn in the script yet. Are you so eager to be with the protagonist that you're going to kill your brother ahead of schedule?" "Oh shit. My heart. My little sister is all grown up. It's true. Every girl gets married eventually. You're not a kid anymore. It's time for you to go out there and be with the protagonist. That's the only way you'll find your happiness. After all, you're a female lead. Being killed by you is way better than being killed by the protagonist. Come on, baby." Asher opened his arms wide, a look of noble sacrifice on his face, ready to embrace his dramatic fate. Chloe shot him a look like he was a complete idiot, then turned her attention to Leo Flynn. From the moment Chloe had stepped out of the car, Leo had been sizing her up. He was stunned yet again. Another goddess, whose beauty was on par with Serafina's, and her figure was unbelievably impressive. Their eyes met. He knew, with the certainty of a Dragon King, that this was a woman he had to have. This small corner of New York was overflowing with rare beauties. This was the 4th one he'd met. The spotlight of this world was, after all, on him, the Dragon King, and his important female leads. A voice from the void whispered in his mind, "These exquisite women are destined to be yours alone." Leo composed himself. It seemed Asher and Chloe knew each other, but judging by her expression, she clearly didn't like the playboy. This was his chance. He put on his most charming, confident smile. "Hello. Did you smash that car?" Chloe asked, pointing. Leo glanced at the wrecked McLaren with satisfaction, then turned his gaze back to her. Yes, that was me, he said, taking full credit. That man next to you was trying to use disgusting methods to get his hands on our Ms. Hayes. If it weren't for me, he might have succeeded. You should stay away from him. That's my sincere advice. A surge of uncontrollable rage welled up inside Chloe. She wanted nothing more than to kill Leo right then and there. But she knew the odds of success were low. Leo had too many ways to escape. Attacking without a guaranteed kill would only alert him, letting the tiger run free to get stronger, making it infinitely harder to land a fatal blow later. Chloe turned to the crowd. Did any of you get a video of this man smashing that car just now? Asher stared, bewildered. What the hell are you doing, Chloe? Prompted by her question, the fog of the plot's stupidity aura seemed to thin. A plain-looking young woman stepped forward from the crowd, holding up her phone. I do. This guy is so annoying. I was recording Mr. Vance's romantic birthday invitation to Ms. Hayes, and he just ran out and started smashing Mr. Vance's car. Chloe took the phone and fast-forwarded through the video. When she saw Asher's deeply earnest, sycophantic expression, she almost burst out laughing. Wait, Serafina actually said yes? Despite her confusion, she scrolled to the end. There it was. The evidence was irrefutable. According to the New York Penal Law, Section 145.10, Chloe began, her voice deceptively innocent. Criminal mischief involving property damage exceeding $50,000 is a Class C felony. That car is worth over $1 million. So, let's call it a cool $1 million. You're looking at 3 to 7 years, easy. Oh wait, Chloe said, blinking her big, innocent eyes and covering her mouth with one hand as if she'd just remembered something. There's also assault with intent to do great bodily harm. My brother, Asher, is gravely injured. He's barely hanging on at death's door. Let's just make it life in prison. Leo? The crowd? Asher? Serafina. Asher thought he was a master bullshit, but his sister was on another level. The ability to lie with a straight face was truly a gift. He was standing right there, perfectly fine, so how was he suddenly on the brink of death? Asher wanted to grab Chloe and say, Sis, stop messing around. Don't play games with your brother. Just stand over there and enjoy the show. Don't interfere with my face-slapping plot mission. But that wasn't what truly shocked him. It was Chloe's actions. Wasn't she supposed to be a female lead? Why was she going up against a male protagonist? Why wasn't she affected by the plot-induced stupidity aura? Before Asher could figure out, the crowd seemed to snap out of their daze. Yeah, this guy should be locked up for life. He almost hurt Ms. Hayes, and he's still standing there spouting nonsense. You said Mr. Vance had some drug, but we didn't see anything. Does Ms. Hayes look like she's been drugged? Don't listen to his crap. He's just a loser who's desperate to get with a woman way out of his league. A vicious glint flashed in Leo's eyes. He smiled. Little beauty, I can pay for the car. But you can't slander me without evidence. Isn't he standing right there, perfectly fine? Leo could see it clearly now. Chloe was probably one of Asher's lackeys on the same team. This was even better. He loved nothing more than stealing women from other men. The spirit of the homewrecker lived on. Chloe held up her hands. Your money? It's too dirty for me. She then turned to her men. What are you all waiting for? Get it? In the circles of New York's 4 great families, physical altercations were common. With connections in high places, authorities often turned a blind eye. This was New York City, not some foreign country. No matter how tough Leo was, he had to play by their rules here. Yes, miss, the lead bodyguard, a mountain of a man, replied. He charged forward, and the rest of the team swarmed in behind him. The scene was explosive. Whoa, miss? Oh my God, I remember now. That's Chloe Vance, the Vance family's princess. Damn, no wonder she's so gorgeous. The Vance family has some amazing genes. Someone in the crowd finally recognized Chloe. She shot them a sweet smile and asked coyly, Did any of you see me order my bodyguards to attack someone? The crowd paused, exchanging glances. They quickly caught on and shook their heads in unison. Nope, didn't see a thing. I just saw Ms. Vance telling her bodyguards to take care of a rat. That's right, a huge, filthy, disgusting rat. Good riddance. Miss Vance is performing a public service. How could you even call that thing a person? They genuinely had no love for Leo. Meanwhile, Leo scoffed. Did they really think these small fry could stop him? What a joke. With a few quick moves, he took down a smaller bodyguard. In the middle of the fight, he pieced together Chloe's identity. The Vance family's princess. This was perfect. In the future, he would destroy the Vance family, ruin Asher, and with a little manipulation, create an irreconcilable rift between the siblings, turning their resentment into hatred. Finally, he would be the one to kill Asher. If Chloe couldn't bear it, he could even consider leaving Asher alive, but broken. Leo considered this a huge concession on his part. Making someone live a miserable existence was far more painful than simply killing them. Soon, several skilled bodyguards were on the ground. The fight raged on. Leo's expression shifted from disdain to seriousness. Damn it, there are trained martial artists mixed in with this group. Foreign bodyguards focused on brute strength and combat techniques, knowing nothing about refined martial arts. They were easy to handle, but one of these trained fighters was worth 3 of those muscle-bound foreigners. A true master could take on 5. One fought from the outside in, the other from the inside out. The power they generated was not to be underestimated. Leo's own ancient martial arts training was not yet complete. He was somewhere in the intermediate stages. After taking down another 6 bodyguards, he started to feel the strain, but it was still manageable. Serafina was watching. He couldn't run. This was his chance to shine. Leo had to show Serafina how different he was from other men. He's like an unkillable cockroach, Chloe muttered, watching the battle. Or did I just not bring enough people? She, of course, knew the extent of Leo's strength and his hidden trump cards. Her biggest mistake today, she realized, was not preparing enough. The time and place were wrong. Otherwise, she would have had her men bring guns. What good was martial arts against modern weaponry? But she couldn't show her killing intent yet. Not until she was absolutely certain of success. If she did, Leo would run. Chloe knew his personality well. He was vindictive and held grudges for a long time. 5, 10, even 20 years. He would endure any humiliation, waiting for the perfect moment to strike a fatal blow. 15 minutes later, the ground was littered with men in black suits, twitching in pain. Leo wasn't unscathed either. He had bruises and swelling all over, his face a patchwork of blue and red. They were just surface wounds, but he looked ridiculous. This was the first time Serafina had seen Leo's true power. Even if it was just the tip of the iceberg, it was enough to shake her to the core. The world she lived in truly was a novel. Facing more than 20 trained bodyguards, he hadn't backed down. He had fought and won against them all. His combat prowess was terrifying. Asher watched from the sidelines, his heart in his throat. Hey, go easy on him, guys. Don't kill the protagonist. If you kill him, I can't finish the plot. Maim him at most. If he's maimed, I'll just have to play my part and pretend not to see. Leo wiped a trickle of blood from the corner of his mouth and shot a defiant smile at Chloe. Ha, the Vance family's bodyguards are all useless. They can't even beat a single security guard. Shouldn't you be ashamed, Miss Vance? He's so strong. Chloe was surprised, and he would only get stronger after his future fortuitous encounters. Her plan to eliminate him had to be moved up. Today was just a test. I admit, you're very impressive, Chloe said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Leo preened, enjoying the compliment. But what good will that do you? Chloe asked playfully. Just then, the wail of police sirens grew closer and closer. Little kid, do you have a lot of questions? Asher, who the hell called the cops? I'll thank your entire family tree for 18 generations. Chloe, it wasn't you, was it? If it was, then never mind. Chloe, the police are here to make an arrest. Asher's heart sank. If the protagonist got thrown in jail and couldn't get out, who was he supposed to turn to? The damn system only cared about the final score, not the process. A few moments later, several police officers got out of their cars, among them Kate Young, on duty. An old acquaintance. When they saw Asher, they gave him an awkward smile and a slight nod. Then their eyes fell on the 20-plus bodyguards in black suits lying on the ground. Captain Miller and his team's jaws nearly hit the pavement. Holy crap, not even a movie hero is this good. Beating 10 guys is one thing, but who the hell took down over 20 bodyguards? Kate saw a familiar face too. Her brow furrowed when she spotted Leo. What bad luck, she thought. Then she saw Asher, and next to him, Chloe. Kate's eyes widened. While Captain Miller was questioning witnesses, she hurried over to Chloe. Chloe, what did you get back? Why didn't you tell me? She exclaimed, throwing her arms around her friend. They were indeed old friends. They had been in the same class from elementary through middle school. With similar family backgrounds and compatible personalities, they had quickly become best friends. Chloe was surprised to see her, then smiled. I just got back. I can't believe you're already a full-fledged officer. So soft, Kate thought, thoroughly envious as she inhaled her best friend's unique scent before letting go. Her orientation was perfectly straight for the record. Ha, you noticed. Kate beamed, proudly flashing the police badge on her chest. Check it out, Chloe. I did so well during my probationary period that the department put in a special request to make me an officer a whole half-month early. You sure it wasn't because of your family connections? Asher thought to himself. He suddenly felt two pairs of eyes on him. One was smiling. The other was filled with murderous intent. Asher flinched. Whoa, are you insane? You're having a conversation. Why are you looking at me? Can't beat you, but I can sure as hell avoid you. Asher started whistling nonchalantly, looking away guiltily. He had no idea why the two of them had suddenly turned to him mid-sentence. All he knew was that getting involved with the novel's female leads was always bad news. Sometimes he wished he was just a minor villain, or even a villain's nameless henchman. The kind of person who could disappear without a trace when things went south. But reality wouldn't allow it. The two women, having looked at Asher at the same time, met each other's gazes and both froze. Chloe, no way. Is Kate a reincarnated too? Kate, oh my God. Can Chloe hear Asher's thoughts? Huh, Kate, why are you staring at that annoying jerk? Chloe asked with a strained laugh, testing the waters. Kate gave an equally awkward laugh. Oh, just can't stand the sight of him. The two had a lot in common. In elementary school, they were both Asher's little shadows, following him everywhere. In middle school, they both started to develop a strange aversion to him. It was a complicated feeling neither could explain. While Kate and Chloe were catching up, Captain Miller had gotten the gist of the situation. Ahem. Mr. Flynn, is it? He said, turning to Leo. You're suspected of intentionally destroying private property, with the damages being substantial. Please come with us to the station for questioning. Leo sneered. He had nothing to say to that charge. But then he pointed to the Vance family bodyguards on the ground. Officer, what about them? Someone just ordered them to gang up on me. If I wasn't a skilled fighter, I'd be the one lying on the ground right now. If I had died, how would you handle that? The protagonist was still the protagonist. His mind cleared quickly. If he was going down, he was taking someone with him. The Dragon King was not to be trifled with. Captain Miller looked uncomfortable. A colleague whispered something in his ear, and his brow furrowed. Even when facing the four great families, even when facing the Vances, he had to uphold the law. Whether to release someone was his superior's problem to worry about. Miller was grateful that sometimes having a low rank was a blessing. He nodded, walked over to Asher, and forced a smile. Mr. Vance, you went a little overboard this time. 20+ men against one. These are all your family's bodyguards, correct? The unwritten rule was one-on-one. Asher froze for a second, then a brilliant idea struck him. A look of pure genius lit up his eyes. Chloe, oh Chloe, let your big brother give you a kiss. Zue sanjo ue, zu. I was wrong about you. You're still a good female lead after all. You just called our family's bodyguards here to test if Leo was the peerless martial arts master of your dreams. After all, you've been obsessed with martial arts since you were a kid, so it makes sense you'd want to find a guy who can fight. And you knew Leo wouldn't snitch on you, so you sent all those men and framed me for it. After all, everyone knows I'm the spoiled young master, most likely to do something like this. You moved the plot forward again. Brilliant. Everyone here is a genius. I'm going home. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have received a cash reward of plus 250. Asher. What the hell, system? Why so cheap this time? Oh well. Asher was in a fantastic mood. He nodded enthusiastically. Yes, they're all our family's bodyguards. Every one of them is strong enough to kill a bull. I called them here because this Leo guy really pissed me off. I wanted revenge. He spread his arms wide. We're all sinners, committing different sins. Captain Miller, cuff me and take me away. Lock me up. Asher held out his hands, so happy he could fly. Serafina wasn't crazy. Chloe wasn't crazy. Kate wasn't crazy. In the last life, it was Kate who had arrested him too. This was just a different path to the same destination, right? If the system dared to give him a bad score after this, he was quitting on the spot. Chloe ducked her head, trying to bury her face in her chest. She basically succeeded, turning into an ostrich as even the back of her neck turned bright red. Superscript 3, Jew. If Ash really wanted to, it wouldn't be impossible. But the rest of his thoughts made her both angry and frustrated. She wanted to kill Leo on the spot just to prove her devotion to Asher. Officer, don't listen to him. I did all of this. If you're going to arrest someone, arrest me. Chloe suddenly declared, rushing forward with her short legs and holding her hands out to Captain Miller. Captain Miller, what the hell did I ever do to the Vance family? Arresting one of them is enough to make the commissioner go ballistic. If I arrest both the brother and sister, they'll tear down the entire precinct. Kate panicked. Chloe, don't talk nonsense. Captain, my friend isn't that kind of person. Now Kate was involved. Captain Miller felt like his head was about to explode. What the? Chloe, have you lost your mind? I've seen it all now. You used to compete with me for everything. and now you're trying to compete for jail time. Damn it. Captain, hurry up and arrest me. Asher said forcefully. I did all of this. If you don't believe me, ask anyone here. Don't listen to his lies. A person should take responsibility for their own actions. I did this, and I won't run from it. Chloe insisted. Asher's eye twitched. Annoyed, he reached out and smacked the back of her pale hand. Smack! The skin instantly turned red. He hadn't held back, hoping the pain would make her retract her hands. But Chloe's hands remained outstretched, firm and unmoving. The determination in her eyes was immovable. Asher felt a pang of regret, but suppressed it. What was the point of all his sycophantic acting? Sorry, Chloe. I didn't have a choice before. Now I just want to walk. Ahem. Walk my own path and stop being a simp. Just do me this one favor and let me spend a few days in jail. Asher's eyes landed on the handcuffs hanging from Kate's belt. An idea struck. Before either woman could react, he snatched the cuffs from her. His fingers brushed against her waist for a fleeting second. So slender, so smooth. Kate's face flushed. The contact was brief, but she had felt the warmth of his fingertips. What are you doing? She snapped. Click. Asher fastened the cold metal around his own wrists. Go to my new home, the holding cell. Chloe immediately tried to do the same, but Captain Miller and the other officers were ready this time. They all took a step back, hands on their own cuffs, putting a safe distance between themselves and her. Damn, this is too dangerous. A fierce girl with that kind of power is terrifying, one of the officers thought. You're just a kid. Don't learn bad habits. Stop messing around and go home, Asher chided her. Chloe shot him a furious glare and turned away, pouting. Asher breathed a sigh of relief. Leo was also handcuffed. Seeing Asher cuff himself, he sneered, TCH. What a phony. Asher couldn't be bothered to respond. They were taken away in separate police cars. Kate said a few comforting words to Chloe before leaving as well. Chloe and Serafina exchanged a look. Chloe first called the director of the Vance family's private hospital to send a dozen ambulances for the injured bodyguards. Then, she got in her Range Rover and drove off. Technically, her short legs shouldn't have been able to reach the pedals of a Range Rover, but the manufacturer had custom-fitted the car for her. Her parents had tried to get her to drive something smaller and more convenient, but Chloe refused. She loved the feeling of driving a big car. Perhaps it was purely out of spite. She had a license, so what did it matter what she drove? Eventually, her parents gave up and let her have her way. The Vances weren't short on cash, and Chloe was their precious daughter. It all started because of Asher's big mouth. One day, he saw her climbing into her Range Rover to look for something. In reality, she was checking for lipstick stains or nail polish from any floozies, ready to punch Asher for each one she found. Asher had laughed at her. Get down from there, that car isn't for you. Kids should drive little Beetles or Mini Coopers. That had infuriated Chloe. She'd pummeled him with her little fists. It wasn't that she disliked the brands he'd recommended. It was that he had called her a kid. She was 18, and her figure put most other women to shame. From that day on, she was determined to drive large vehicles like Range Rovers. She got addicted to the feeling and eventually lost all interest in smaller cars and sports cars. She even got a license to drive large trucks. Back in the present, Serafina watched Chloe leave, a thoughtful frown on her face. Should I do something about that annoying jerk? She wondered aloud. She was still holding the little chrysanthemum. She carried it with her to a white Maserati Quattroporte, slid into the driver's seat, and brought the flower to her nose, inhaling deeply. Smells so good. She closed her eyes, letting the sunlight stream through the windshield and warm her beautiful face. Her mood instantly lifted. After a long moment, she opened her eyes again. The image of Asher pushing her out of the car flashed through her mind. She pressed her lips together. I guess I can help the dog out just this once. New York City Police Department. News that the national husband, Asher Vance, had been brought to the precinct was like a bomb going off. The story that he'd ordered his bodyguards to attack someone for the woman he loved spread like wildfire. The people who were there came back with a half-baked story. The people who heard it only got a quarter of the story. By the time it had been passed around 100 times, it was a completely different story. Soon, multiple versions were circulating. The more plausible one. Asher was trying to assert his claim over Serafina Hayes and show his power. The more ridiculous one. He knew Kate Young was on duty and orchestrated the whole thing to get her attention, hoping the beautiful super cop would be the one to arrest him. After all, Kate was stunningly beautiful. If any other officer had arrested Asher, the news probably wouldn't have exploded so quickly. After his interrogation, Asher took full responsibility for ordering his bodyguards to attack Leo. Since Leo was still alive and kicking, the charge wasn't attempted murder. He would just have to pay a few thousand for medical expenses and spend half a month in a holding cell. Perfect. Asher strode into his home with purpose. The holding cells were full of fascinating characters. The conversation was always great, and he truly loved it here. He could probably walk through the place blindfolded. He was that familiar with it. Whoa, what a coincidence. This room again. Asher muttered, blinking. The corrections officer paused. What was that? Nothing. Without waiting for instructions, Asher walked into the single cell. He was clearly getting special treatment. The bed was neatly made, and the sheets were clean, unlike the other cells. Leo was brought in and placed in a cell diagonally across from Asher's. The whole way there, Leo had been taunting him. Asher couldn't be bothered to engage. The plot had already progressed this far. There was no need to keep provoking him. The hatred was already firmly established. Asher's silence made Leo's monologue feel incredibly foolish. A guard told him to shut up, and he finally did. This section was for people involved in brawls and civil disputes. Since Leo's case involved a significant amount of money, this was just a temporary holding area. Once the exact value of the mint green McLaren 720S was confirmed, he'd be transferred. Of course, there was a whole legal process to go through, but Leo wasn't worried. He had already contacted his people before coming in. He was confident he would be bailed out soon. Asher's expensive suit was hilariously out of place. Someone in the next cell recognized him. Holy crap, is it the national husband, Asher Vance? You got thrown in here too. Damn, it really is him. Where? Let me see. Whoa, it's the real deal. A few young men, in for fighting, exclaimed excitedly. Asher gave them a small smile and a nod. In his last life, he'd been bailed out by his mother after just a few days, during which he'd idly chatted with the other inmates. This time, with the plot in chaos, he couldn't be bothered. He lay down on the cot, lost in thought. He felt that even amidst the chaos, there was a certain order. Like how he had, against all odds, ended up back in a holding cell. The system had gone quiet, but he still had to walk this path. Sigh. The road is long, and my quest is far. I shall seek high and low, he murmured to himself. Please, plot, don't get any more chaotic. He sighed again, a sense of peace washing over him. A few moments later, he was fast asleep. The guards who brought him in stared in disbelief. The other inmates were equally stunned. Whoa, it's so damn loud in here, and he can just fall asleep? That's a hardcore dude right there. The first person I've ever seen fall asleep the second they hit the cot in a holding cell. Nobody else comes close. Damn, when I first got here, I couldn't sleep for days. I guess that's the difference between us and a real boss. Across the way, Leo was fuming. He couldn't understand why all the rare, beautiful women seemed to gravitate toward Asher. Even Serafina, who hated him the most, was starting to show signs of wavering. It drove him insane. Seeing Asher peacefully asleep only fueled his rage. He glared at him with pure hatred. Sleep. Go on and sleep. The day will come when all of your family's resources are mine, and all the women around you will be mine too. You're nothing but a spoiled playboy. You don't deserve any of it. Leo sat on his cot and began to meditate, circulating his energy to heal his bruises and soothe the pain. Precinct Office Kate Young paced back and forth nervously. A holding cell was not a good place to be. She might dislike Asher's playboy antics, but she didn't dislike all of him. It was the unreasonable parts she hated. How could she hate the reasonable parts? Captain Miller sat calmly, sipping his tea. Finally, Kate couldn't take it anymore. Captain Miller, I want to post bail for Asher Vance. Puffed. Miller sprayed a mouthful of tea across his desk and started choking. Cough, cough. Do you know what you're saying? Kate nodded, her expression dead serious. I do. The gossip-loving souls of the other officers in the room ignited. Some of the male cops were so devastated they started to cry. No. Has Officer Young fallen for him? My goddess, you could be anything you want, but you can't have a boyfriend. Shut up. You just mean the boyfriend can't be someone other than you. Everyone stopped guessing. Officer Young and Mr. Vance were classmates as kids. She's probably just helping him out for old time's sake. Miller wiped his mouth and the desk with a tissue. He looked at Kate. You can post his bail. You know the procedure. But are you sure you want to do that? Kate nodded firmly. I'm sure. All right then, Miller sighed. Go prepare the paperwork. You know where the holding cells are. Sigh. Girls these days. At least, she wasn't his daughter. All the young guys in the precinct who had crushes on her were probably heartbroken right now. Miller felt a little schadenfreude. He'd been young once too, but now his own daughter was in elementary school. He had no time for this kind of drama. Vance Corporation Tower the Apex Properties crisis had passed, but life went on. The Vances had plenty of other business ventures. In the executive conference room, Scarlett Jo sat at the head of the table. She was now fully dedicated to helping the Vance family grow, treating it as her own. Asher usually skipped important meetings like this, delegating everything. He'd wait for the board to finalize a plan, have Jasmine bring it to him, and he'd sign it without a second thought. During those deliberations, shareholders with their own agendas would try to skim off the top or play both sides. Asher usually turned a blind eye to their greed. Before, Scarlett wouldn't have cared either. She wasn't genuinely in love with Asher. But now, things were different. Asher was her everything. In recent days, Scarlett had displayed a stunning business acumen and a ruthless decisiveness. The shareholders who had been planning to get their kickbacks were now sitting with their tails between their legs, not daring to make a move. Mark Lee certainly didn't dare to pull his who agrees, who objects stunt anymore. He had almost ended up in prison due to his carelessness. Today's meeting was about whether to invest in crude oil bonds. These bonds were typically stable, but recent market fluctuations presented an opportunity. The most astute families were already making their moves. Waiting too long meant missing out. Of course, Scarlett had another motive for expanding the Vance empire, to build a defense against Leo Flynn's Dragon's Den. She had only heard from Asher's thoughts that the organization was powerful. She'd spent the last few days investigating and, while information was limited, confirmed that it had a significant reputation abroad. She had to prepare for the storm before it arrived. The atmosphere in the room was tense. Scarlett's brow was furrowed, her long, pale index finger tapping lightly on the table. She was also weighing the pros and cons of the investment. A move of this scale would attract the attention of other major families. Knock, knock, knock. A sudden, ill-timed knock broke the silence. Everyone in the room frowned in unison. Everything discussed in the conference room was top secret. To prevent leaks, all electronic devices, including phones, were required to be turned off. All eyes turned to Scarlett. She was in charge now. She could decide the fate of the person knocking on the door. "Come in," she said. Scarlett was level-headed. She didn't show any annoyance at being interrupted. There had to be a good reason. The door opened, and Jasmine Jiang stepped inside. She gave a slight nod to the room, an apology for the intrusion, then hurried to Scarlett's side. As Scarlett looked at her quizzically, Jasmine leaned in and whispered something in her ear. The room held its breath. This investment was just as large, if not larger, than the Apex Properties deal. Had Jasmine received some critical intel? Was the oil bond investment a bad idea? Scarlett's frown deepened, her brows knitting together tightly. Smack! She slammed her palm on the table and shot to her feet, her face a mask of fury. "How dare he?" she seethed, her voice filled with killing intent. She had been working tirelessly these past few days and hadn't seen Asher, so she had no idea the plot had progressed without her. This was the first she was hearing of his arrest. Jasmine shook her head. She didn't know the details of how that Leo Flynn had managed to get Asher thrown in a holding cell, only that he was there now. She was just as worried about her boss. A holding cell was no place for him. She knew a major meeting was underway and that interrupting was highly unprofessional, but she had risked it to find Scarlett. Judging by Scarlett's reaction, she had made the right choice. The powerful shareholders and department heads sat in stunned silence, not daring to breathe as they watched Scarlett. They respected her not because she was the future daughter-in-law of the Vance family, but because of her own formidable capabilities. Scarlett took a moment to compose herself. She picked up her phone from the table. "Today's meeting is canceled. We'll reschedule." She turned on her phone as she strode toward the door in her high heels. "Jasmine, what happened?" one of the executives finally dared to ask. Jasmine replied, "Turn on your phones, check the top trending videos on TikTok, or just search his name." With that, she followed Scarlett out of the room. Confused, the remaining executives did as she said. A moment later, the conference room erupted in chaos. The general manager was in a holding cell. No wonder Scarlett had left in such a hurry. Similar scenes were playing out elsewhere. Yang Corporation, Tower, the Yang family's primary business, was in high-end cosmetics and personal care products for women. The female market was lucrative, so it was no surprise that they were the wealthiest of the four great families. In the CEO's office, Jessica Yang, whose face bore a striking resemblance to her sister Kate's, sat listlessly at her desk. There were dark circles under her eyes, a testament to restless nights. Thanks to her dreams, she hadn't had a peaceful night's sleep in a month. The dreams were terrifyingly real and never pleasant. She had a classic, elegant oval face and skin as smooth as a shelled egg. She wore a white, off-the-shoulder chiffon top and tailored shorts that showed off her long, slender legs, which were crossed elegantly. Below them were a pair of burgundy high heels, her 10 perfectly round and lovely toes peeking out, painted a noble purple. A cascade of raven black hair added to her ethereal beauty. She was a true fairy. Why do I keep dreaming about that guy? She murmured. And why do the dreams feel so real? Heh. And here I thought I had finally given up on those feelings, Jessica said with a bitter smile. The so-called nightmares were all dreams about Asher. Some were from their childhood, but most were of the future. The images were fragmented and blurry, but they were seared into her memory. In one dream, a man suddenly appeared at the Yang Corporation with a formula for a fast-acting, side-effect-free skin whitening cream. He wanted to partner with the Yang family, demanding a 70/30th split. Jessica had the formula tested. The results were incredible, but a 70/30th split was outrageous. The Yangs would provide the capital, the labor, the resources, and he was just providing a formula. She acknowledged the formula's value, but she couldn't give away that much profit. The man reluctantly lowered his demand to 65/35. Jessica still refused. Finally, he agreed to 50/50. Later, the dream shifted. At a banquet, the man got into a conflict with Asher. Asher was being bullied. Jessica's heart ached, but she did nothing. She wanted to use the man to knock some sense into Asher, to show him that Serafina Hayes wasn't the only woman in the world, that she wasn't worth all his effort. But Asher remained stubborn, unyielding. The conflict escalated. Jessica's heart felt like it was being torn apart. Finally, the man she loved got married. Even though it was just a formality, just a scene in a dream, she had woken up that morning sobbing, her face soaked with tears. The last dream was 2 nights ago. She was pretending to be the girlfriend of the man with the formula, trying to make Asher jealous. Even in the dream, she couldn't bring herself to let him hold her hand. Then the scene changed again. News came of Asher's death. The boy she had loved since childhood was dead. A bullet had pierced his heart. She had to see the body for herself. She was at his funeral. In death, Asher's face showed no pain, no struggle. There was only the faint trace of a smile on his lips. Was it worth it? Boom. The dream shattered. Jessica woke up with her eyes swollen and red from crying. The dreams felt too real, as if they had actually happened. She had been wearing sunglasses to work for the past few days to hide her eyes. It must be work stress, she told herself. I'll take a vacation, go to another city for a bit. That should clear my head. Tap, tap. Jessica's long fingers swiped across her phone screen, looking for flights. She would leave tonight. Knock, knock, knock. Come in, Jessica said without looking up. A female secretary entered. Ms. Yang, the afternoon meeting is about to begin. A news alert popped up on Jessica's phone. The headline instantly grabbed her attention. Her brow furrowed, her breathing quickening. The secretary, seeing that her boss was preoccupied, stood silently and waited. Asher Vance is really in a holding cell. Boom. A thunderclap went off in Jessica's mind. This event had appeared in her dreams. It was just a fleeting, blurry fragment, but she remembered it with chilling clarity.